in your heart, you'll write your max HP. And then I remember at the start of session, because I have 2 sessions going on simultaneously, and I remember how much damage you guys are supposed to be doing, because I use a level-less system. And so I need to know HP values, so I'm not swinging for 30 when I should be swinging for 8.
Okay. I think we're live.
Okay, well, we are going
I'm pretty sure you're not in VF.
We'll go sit and then we'll make sure.
I'll swing down.
No, it's good that you're blind.
Make sure that there's pencils for everybody.
It's just for cut.
Because I only have 1.
I have a pen.
You'll want pencil for your sheet. You have pen after. But you'll really want pencil for your character sheet because it won't stay throughout. That's okay. Sure. So roll. Another one.
If I would have known, I would have brought a box.
Another one. I'm up to 3.
I have plenty.
I'm up to 3. I only need 2 more.
I wasn't right.
Well, if you need pencils, but like pens, I have some erasable pens.
Ooh.
No, I don't use a pen.
Well, that's cool. So there's 3 pencils there.
Whatever works.
So James, you can have your pen.
Wow.
I'll use whatever you give me.
Oh, this matches my die.
The little things in life.
Okay, I'm gonna hand these to you. These are your little token baggie.
This is mine.
Yeah, it's mine. So
I mean, like, on my
that is for your
character.
character.
I mean,
It comes from a board game, so I have 2 pieces of that.
no,
Yes.
I didn't mean like.
I know.
I'm just like, wow, I get a thing, but
You sure do. You know what those are?
They're from Spirit Island.
They are from Spirit Island.
I'm assuming these are like AOE things or
They're the
something.
things you leave in your wake.
They're your wake leavings.
I love it.
And so you've got plants, animals, and earth coming up, which are meant to be fallen walls. Okay. Yeah. I'm gonna put these in the middle when we do battle. This mat will mostly need to be clear, at least from the center, just so you guys know, but we won't need it for a while. All right.
Such a
Normal crunch. Double
Yep, let's
blended.
go here.
Fancy.
Yeah. So I'm going to hand out.
Hey, thanks for putting all of this together.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
This. Really, we only read.
Mango dragon fruit.
I'm sure I have playing the Crossroads somewhere, but it's I mean, we literally only need 1 more. There's one right here. Oh, I missed that. Yeah. Okay. So there's the last pencil. Everyone, make sure you have one. James, can I borrow one of your pens? Erasable? Yeah. Cool. All right. So I'm going to hand out some things to you. This is your signature. These are your powers, 3 of which have upgrades taped to the back of them. The other 3 are based on, you can just put them to the side. You're not going to need them right now, but you'll want to be able to look at them later. And then this, thank you so much, is your kind of profile, and it's a leadership power that you will have available to you. And it also upgrades. Here is your signature. And same thing, you've got 3 powers here that are upgradable, and then 3 that are your talent powers that you can ignore for now. They are in the middle of them, they say X talent. So whatever talent trait it is, and then the talent. And then this is your leadership ability, and it's upgradable. We've got your signature, sir. Okay, Kev, you got all sorts of weird ones here. I'm going to separate them out for you. Enemy dead, some of those haunt. These are your 3 basic powers.
Okay.
Primary, rather. These 4 are your talent powers that you can set off to the side. And then this is your leadership that is also upgradable. You don't have any powers upgradable except your leadership, but your talent tree looks bloated. So you spend power points in another place.
Yeah. Instead of using that on that, I use it on my talent.
Yes. Okay, James, I'm just gonna hand you all these over there. And Henri, that's your signature. And then you've got 3 upgradable powers in here, the top 3. The last 3 are your talent powers. You can just go off to the side for now. But when you're deciding which talent tree you want to go, you can look ahead and see the powers that they unlock and see if you want them. And then this is your leadership ability. And it is also upgradable.
You're amazing.
This is my favorite part. It makes the 60 hours of putting it all together worth it. Thank you to James for always helping me laminate and cut everything.
Yes.
We're pretty fortunate to have a DM that's also a writer.
It's great.
Everybody I send that to was like, oh, nice.
Okay, so I'm going to, yeah, go ahead.
On the TT evasion says your phasing says your evasion gets plus 25%. On my card it says my phasing gains me plus 20% evasion.
Okay, so
Card
it's 20.
Trump?
No, it's 20.
Okay.
That's because it's the difference between the sci-fi and the fantasy.
Okay, just checking.
Yeah, thank you.
Yep.
Okay, I'm gonna hand out your talent trees.
Okay.
James, I'm gonna hand you yours. I won't let you explain it. Okay, so you have 3 paths that you can go. And
You got it right on
they
that one.
go, did I really?
Yeah.
Oh my God.
That's a good thing.
So apparently I knew at one point. And you get them from left to right. So you unlock them from left to right. Once you choose one tree, you are nixing the other 2. You literally cannot go multiple talents. So choose very carefully which one you want to start down. The first one costs 5 points to unlock, and then they have different numbers as you go on. I think it's 30 points total to unlock the whole thing, which is a lot of investment. The first 5 kind of changes or locks in your play style a little bit. So I mean, you won't be able to get one right away because you won't have 5 points, but it's a good idea to play a couple of battles and find out what you like the most and then choose your talent. Unless, of course, you see one and you fall in love with it right away and then, hey, I did my job. So there's yours.
Is there a way to respec your talent? at
I
one
am
point?
pretty much always open to respecing as
Okay.
long as we discuss it.
Okay.
I am not a hard ass when it comes to that kind of thing. The big thing is that the only rule is that unless you got some sort of item or relic to let you go in multiple paths, you will always be locked out to just one.
Sure.
Kev, yours is similar, but it is bloated. So you have one line as well. You unlock in a, you can unlock either one, but you have to unlock both before you can go to the next one. And your bottom path has an extra power in it to offset some of the passive abilities of the top ones. So there's that for you. And okay, so your character sheet, which is the first thing I handed you, has a list of innate abilities along the right-hand side. The top one has a stat associated with it. Sometimes the next one also has a stat associated with it.
We're looking at the ability.
Yes. I would read through those before we start doing character creation so you have an idea of what stats you want to build. And so just go ahead and read through those to yourself, and then in about 3 minutes I'll keep it. And just to warn you, the last one on that list is it's a negative. It's what you're weak to.
I like the sound of that.
sure you caught on to some of your very quick talent sheet.
Maybe assassination.
Straight up the same power. Exact same trait. There's a friend, I missed the word Seth in there.
Interesting.
All right, so on your character sheet, the table that has all the stats on the left-hand side. There are 6 primary stats and 5 secondary stats. The 6 primary ones are strength, fortitude, mysticism, willpower, dexterity, and agility. And they kind of go in pairs of 2. Like you've got strength is kind of your offensive might, fortitude is kind of your defensive might, mysticism is your offensive magic, willpower is more of your defensive magic, and dexterity is more of your offensive precision and targeting, and agility is a little bit more of your dodging people, their targeting and dexterity. So they kind of partner with each other. You will roll primary skills in checks quite a bit in combat, and then less so out of combat unless you're doing an action to initiate it. So if you're trying to lift a car off a person, there aren't cars in the world, but if you were lifting a carriage off of a person, you would roll a strength check, but you're kind of the one initiating that. Those first, third, and fifth ones, so the strength, mysticism, and dexterity are a lot more what you're choosing to roll. The fortitude, willpower, and agility are a lot more of you're reacting to things that I'm doing. Okay, so stats are pretty simple. You're going to get to choose the numbers that go in there in a minute, but they're pretty straightforward. There's a little stat next to each one on the right to the right of it. For example, on strength, it says plus crit damage. You can ignore that when you're selecting what values you want, because that is not specifically associated with that stat. Rather, when you do cool feats that require that skill, you get to check those little boxes to the right of that. And when you hit 3 of them, you get that bonus permanently to your character. So it's a way to grow your character levellessly. So when you're choosing stats though, don't worry about those secondary stats because they will not play into your build. The secondary stats are awareness, charisma, knowledge, questing, and thievery. I think it's really cool that like D&D has like 30 skills, but unfortunately it usually ends up meaning that you only roll about 4 of them. And so I try to condense down to 5 that actually get rolled fairly often. So awareness is your perception, it is your all 5 senses. You will probably roll that one the most as a reflex to what I'm doing. Charisma is it's both intimidation and negotiation and seduction, all 3 of those things kind of rolled into one. So if you feel like your character was not, well, for example, if you think the hamster puzzle isn't that seductive, but you think he'd be super intimidating, you can still go high charisma. Knowledge is kind of all of those D&D library skills rolled to one. It's history, it's lore, it's it's religion, all of those kind of things. And also, if you come across something unfamiliar, like a tablet, a mosaic, or something like that, and you're trying to investigate it, knowledge might be what you do for that. Questing is kind of your survival skill. So it's out in the wilderness, it's kind of scouts craft kind of stuff. It includes like first aid. And then also it can sometimes be used for dungeoneering, like if for example, maybe you're a floor trapped down and you're trying to get out of that, I might have you roll a questing. If I'm not having you roll an agility, questing might be into that. Then we get into thievery. Thievery is pretty, apparent. It's everything skullduggery. And when you're choosing to do it, it's usually things like pickpocket or stealing without being caught. When it's reactive, it's more like checking for traps or avoiding the trap detonating. So those are the 5 secondary skills. They also have epic feat moments that you get to check off the box to gain the bonuses. By the way, those boxes are cyclical. So when you check off the 3rd box, you then erase all 3 marks, permanently gain the stat bonus, and you start over again. So you can keep getting the stats. Okay, So we are going to start by filling those out. I have to ask this question. I have my preference, but I kind of want the group to get a say in it. There's kind of two philosophies to building stats on characters, and that is character driven or min-maxing, right? It's going based off of what you know is going to be rolled more often versus what your character would be. I'm a huge fan of what your character would be because it's a little more story driven. But if you want to min-max, then we need to decide as a group whether we're going to go in with your bonuses blind or not. So what that means is I have a master sheet here that's going to give people bonuses and penalties to stats. If you want to min-max, then you probably want to know those ahead of time. But if we want to do more character decisions, then we can go blind. What do you guys prefer? There's no right or wrong answer, right? You know, I have one.
Yeah, I kind of feel like it should be.
Okay.
For me at least.
Cool.
Just because it's been forever since I played whatsoever.
Well, there's not a ton of penalties and buffs, so it won't change tons. But that's
What do you guys think?
I'm good either way.
Okay.
okay. Cool. Let's do this. Okay, so you get to put in 0 through 5, right? Yeah, on your 6 main stats in any order you want. So one's going to get 0, one's going to get 1, one's going to get 2, one's going to get 3, one's going to get 4, and one's going to get 5. Go ahead and fill them out and base them on what you want / what you think your character would be. And by the way, you can do it just off what you want. If you don't want to have a strong vampire, you don't need to. This is your character.
0 through 5.
0 through 5. And right?
And is 0 okay or is 0?
Good question. So 10. So 0 through or 1 through 10 is like the normal range for your race. So 10 is like you're among the top like 5% of people in your entire species. Anything above 10, which you can go above 10 because I don't have caps. Anything above 10 and you're like godlike in your realm. So if you're looking at a 5, you're looking at like a really good level 1 character or a moderate level 5 character. Kind of
So
thing.
if you're a 0, then like you should go and walk with it.
So
I'm trying to
Like,
decide
yeah.
if I'm a 0 strength hamster or a 1 strength hamster. It's going to be one of the two.
So-
Yeah, how pathetic
so-
like can I
Right,
keep a
like-
function?
game terms, when you roll a DC, you roll a D20 and you add your skill check to it. An easy DC is 8.
Okay.
A medium is 14. So when you have a 5, you only have to hit a 9. If you have 0, you have to hit a 14.
I
Okay.
play
So
hamster.
game terms, that should help with your thinking a little bit. I'm also going to tell you right now, I will be giving 2 stat points out as part of your blind growth. So you'll have a total of 7, except 1 character because they're penalties.
So strength and fortitude is ability to either deal or withstand physical damage.
And physical effects, like if you're like, like a weakened type thing. Yeah.
Mysticism, willpower was more magic based.
Yep.
Dexterity, agility was more range, not magic.
And it's not specifically range because like a rogue would also be high dex. But it's accuracy and precision.
Would I need dexterity for targeting for spellcasting or not?
No, that's more mysticism.
So we're saying 5 is high.
5 is the highest. Yep. And like an end game character should have like 1 or 2 stats that are at like 2 or 3, and then have like
Sure, the most higher.
spreading all the way up until and if you're a person that goes like really scalpel, you'll have one that's like a 13. But if you spread them out, you might have a bunch of 9s, that kind of thing. So but that's the end of the campaign character. Because the DCs don't really change. But
Are all of my new spells? Am I all magic?
Yes.
Okay.
Oh, I thought you had to do a 5, 4, 3, 2, and 1, 0.
5, 4, 3, 2, 1, 0.
Oh, that's what we have to do.
Okay.
One's a 5.
Because I was
one's a 4,
trying to
one's a 3,
figure out
one's a
if
2.
you're going to be on a leash or not.
Yeah, so you should have 1, 0, 1, 1, 1, 2, 1, 3, 1, 4, and 1, 5.
I'm assuming my guy is more physical based stuff.
I would imagine.
But,
Yeah.
okay, yeah. And then would maybe want some
To
magical
give you an
defense.
example, the penalty I have for you is -1 in mysticism.
What's mine?
I will let you know in a minute.
I'm getting my sauce.
Prioritizing dexterity.
Agility might be something you want a decent amount of because of your the fact that you're a
Dodge factor.
So that might be something that you consider getting. Again, it doesn't feed into your evasion, but in terms of getting to roll to swiftly move out of the way of things, I would imagine might be something you'd be interested
I don't know which one.
in. It always sucks when I make you do a 0, huh?
Would willpower be one of the things? I'm trying to think what I want to minimum.
I'm
At
gonna
least 2 priorities.
you should weigh in because I don't ever play players. So you should weigh in.
What was your specific question?
If I'm supposed to be an evasion tank
Okay.
who deals primarily melee damage,
Okay.
I'm trying to figure out how to prioritize these statistics.
Okay.
And he's a vampire.
Yeah. So I've started with fortitude at 5 because I need to be able to withstand something if I get hit.
Physically, if you do get hit, you're
I want to be right. Agility, then I put at 4.
so you can dodge.
Right. I'm thinking dexterity, I put at 0. That seems the least viable to me.
Okay.
My
That's a
character.
tank, right?
So not
Evasion.
yeah.
get
So
hit,
not
take
as
damage.
precise. A little bit more like broad strokes. As they
Right,
end up.
right.
Like if
Well,
they do melee, it's more of like bam, not like
Yeah, it
pressure
wasn't
point.
one of my things that I can counter with infinity anyway. So if I'm going to be able to get out of the way on their attack, swing.
He has a power called Contemptuous. If they miss him, he counters. So
that's pretty cool.
So I think dexterity at 0 is okay.
Yeah.
Knowing that a mysticism of -1 is coming, I'm kind of tempted to put that at 3. I don't think I really use mysticism.
I would
It
put your
doesn't
will
sound
at
like
3. I would put
That's
your
what I would
mysticism at 0. Or maybe a 1, knowing that you have a -1 coming to drop that to 0. Because you're not going to be attacking with magic, right? So you don't need that as a stat.
Okay.
This
I agree-
particular
I agree with that.
chaos center,
Strength at 2 then.
this is not
Cool.
me.
Good with that.
doing
All right,
physical
cool.
damage.
So this way you
Yep.
focus on your defensive shit.
physical damage.
Yeah.
Your
I think
next
this is
strongest
you,
is
man.
your
Ability
damage
to
stat.
Psychic, thank you. It's been way too
Okay.
long.
I'm assuming my dexterity.
I mean, that's right.
That was, so a lot of these stats they don't feed into
Because
the
it's
towers, so
self,
feed into
doesn't
like
have the
role
same
playing or story battles. And so
Yeah,
generally,
I thought maybe these were like
you just like swing at them.
But
But I guess their head would be like, I want to, you know, get something and stab right
This guy,
between them, like they're
yeah.
like spine and kill them instantly. That would be a
No,
death.
it's dexterity.
And maybe you wouldn't care. So, no, I just something like in that.
Yeah.
And
So
it
it
won't
doesn't
happen.
matter.
Yeah. So it just
Yeah.
becomes like that.
Yeah.
Nice.
Still fits in that
Yeah.
same stuff, so it's perfect.
Yeah, as long as they're
He's
bleeding.
technically like
Yes.
my job, but he's cool as hell. He's like.
Yeah, I can see that.
You're cool.
Does everybody have their 5 or their 6 stats?
Not at all. I have one. I have one just instead of.
Well, I'll go ahead. I'll have the just listen for just a moment. I'll let everyone continue on because it's the same thing. So now your secondary stats, you're doing the exact same thing, but it's 0, 1, 2, or sorry, it's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 instead of so no 0. So it's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 on your secondary stats.
So, just so I can have some help from you guys, maybe get a better understanding too. I'm assuming, based on my character, I'm gonna put 0 in strength.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and 1 index.
That's what I was thinking.
Yeah.
Because that was the 2. I'm like, I won't need these 2
So
here.
this way your primary attack stat is there. Then I would focus on will as your next highest and
See, I
fortitude
didn't
and
know if
agility. is
will
up
or
to you.
agility should be there because I still want to be able to
Mhm.
evade
It just
some
like when you
stuff.
imagine your character like
Yeah.
kind of like being
Let's
attacked,
do
or
it.
they're gonna like
Yeah.
move out of the way, like
Yeah.
physically like dodging
Another
it,
thing to
just a
think
quick
about. This
reaction.
is, I'll give you kind of a real time example. So for my boss. So let's say you're fighting 2 different bosses. Okay, one boss is like a psychic mastermind, and the other one's like this crazy archer. Crazy archer launches a volley, and the other one launches a mental attack. Is your character, are they more proficient at dodging weaving a bunch of arrows, or are they more proficient at withstanding a mental attack?
Yeah.
That helped a lot.
Say that again.
Yeah. Well,
Yeah.
no, you know what? Just which one's
Yeah,
which?
yeah. So agility is dodging the weaving between those arrows that are dodging at you, and willpower is withstanding that psychic attack that's trying to attack you. Which one are you stronger at?
I'm technically
character
weak
would
to
definitely-
psychic, so wouldn't that make me weak
Well,
to like?
psychic may have been a bad example for that exact word for you. But say instead of a psychic attack, they're launching a wave of fire.
Okay, yeah.
Which one are you better at withstanding? Are you going to be able to counter that magic and not be hurt, or are you going to be dodging
Okay,
those arrows?
Some asshole hamster's throwing a death bolt at you.
So since we're all talking about.
Yeah, and please do. This is a group activity.
Yeah.
I'm thinking that I have a lot of healing capabilities, so I put 0 as my fortitude. Is that what it is? Because I can heal a lot. So I kind of don't know that.
Theoretically, you should be ranged and not.
And actually, yeah, theoretically, I
Right.
range.
And also,
Should be my
you're also this like. You
I'm
know,
a
you're this like twiggy character. I can see that.
And
you're
that
not
makes sense, it's like you just, you know, you get cut, gets infected, you just go.
Yeah, like that's why I'm like, I can take damage because I can heal a lot.
Yeah.
So that's okay. And then agility, I put into 1.
Mhm.
Strength, I put 2, because like, I'm not, I feel like my damage output's stronger than like my physical strength.
Yeah.
Which is why the fortitude is lower. And then willpower, I put 3. Dexterity, I put 4, and mysticism, I put 5.
I think those work really well.
Yeah,
Yeah.
makes sense to me.
And then 1 through 5 for your secondary stats.
Can you go
Does
over
it-
those over time?
Absolutely. So the top one is awareness. That's your perception of the world.
Right.
And that's not just visual. It's also your ability to hear and whatnot. The next one, charisma, is your negotiation skills, your seduction skills, and your intimidation skills. It's the thing you roll the most when you're trying to persuade someone, whether you're trying to persuade them via seduction or intimidation, etc. The knowledge is all lore checks. Anything that has to do with coming up against something you are unfamiliar with and knowing something about it, that would fall under knowledge. For those of you who have some sort of, so mainly you, and you, knowledge could also play a little bit into knowledge of magic. It's not going to be all of your knowledge of magic. It's just going to be like, if you recognize it, for example, might be a knowledge check. Questing is like your survival skills and scoutcraft. And then your thievery is your stealthiness and ability to steal and also detect traps. And by the way, with stealth checks, I tend to go back and forth between agility and thievery. And a lot of times I'll let you choose between the two. So just so you know, both of those feed into
Unless we're so
stealth.
aware we don't get stuck in the first place.
Well, I'm talking about when you're choosing to steal.
Jimmy, follow me.
Wait, if we have.
It's even more secret.
So, innate ability.
Yep.
That focuses on
Which way are you
Yes.
Does it make more sense to invest highly in that one or less in that
Yeah.
one because?
It's a decision. I would probably go more into it.
Okay,
But
that makes
it
sense.
doesn't need to be your maximum.
Sure.
But I would probably make it one of your top 2. I'll be right back.
Good. I'm just, yeah, someone's gonna come up and I'm gonna die. but-
Questing was what?
That is like survival, first aid, kind of getting from point A to point B, dungeoneering,
Yeah.
figuring out traps,
Someone else can do that
mechanisms. Yeah, that's my highest one.
Cool, excellent. Good. You can lead the way. I'll be right back.
I have one of my things is like all into that, but I think I'm
I have that too, where I have one of the main stats, I put that lower. 'cause It's like, I'm gonna grow into that. I'm
yeah.
not gonna start with that. So,
Just wanted to make sure that that was fair.
Yeah, totally. I completely agree.
So
was it a good secret?
He's happy about it. Okay, most of the rest of us.
I was just making sure that.
He can in fact kill you.
Yeah, without us knowing if it's the very sign up.
Yes.
Yeah. Okay.
With
So, if I
my,
kill James and I need it to be a secret, do I need high thievery? Okay, cool. Good.
Okay, good, that's what I was thinking.
I was hoping I just need a high charisma.
Yeah, well, it's high charisma or thievery, because I can know, but you use charm me, I'm like, okay, I get it. Of course. I know your character.
Okay, so for those
well, and I
people
wasn't
who are
gonna
done-
go there, but then I was talking to James like, well, because of this, it makes sense. Right? He's like, yeah, really does.
So for those of you who are done, I'm going to give out your penalties and your bonuses. Azorius, you have a -1 to mysticism, and also a -1 to questing.
How do I mark that?
You just reduce it by 1.
Okay.
And by the way, you can always, this is your character sheet, you can write anything you want on it. James often tracks where all of his pluses and minuses come from. You are not required to, but you can. James, oh, and I'm sorry, Azorius, you also have a +2 to strength, a +1 to awareness, and a +1 to charisma. So go ahead and add all those up. You're still working on yours, or are you done? Okay,
Good.
Henri, I've got a couple things for you.
Okay.
You have a +1 to mysticism and to will. You can go ahead and increase both those by 1. And then you have a +2 to knowledge and a +2 to thievery. Let's see, Velizar, you're all caught up?
Yeah.
All right, you get a +1 to fortitude and a +1 to mysticism.
Okay.
You get a -1 to charisma. And you get a +2 to questing and a +1 to thievery. Okay.
I feel like it's back one appropriately.
Do you have a 7?
No,
Oh.
I have 6, 4, 4, 1, 1.
Nice.
Right, like-
That's very good. Yep, very good. Okay, Seraphina. Sorry, Seraphine. I will do my best. I have to just ignore what's written. Oh, yeah. Okay, so you have a +1 to mysticism, a +1 to will, and a +1 to dex. You also get a +1 to knowledge and a +1 to questing.
Banking on that. Banking on it.
All right, and Felliel, you have +1 to dex, +1 to agility, +1 to awareness, and +1 to thievery. Go ahead and add all those up. And then we will continue on to the slightly more complicated stats of the rest of the sheet.
I'm fucking. Okay, listen, whenever I play digital games, making my characters like the part I
It's so
spend
much fun,
16
right?
hours on,
I love
I'm
it.
It's more
so
fun.
happy.
It's so great.
That's like
I'm
half
just
the
like,
game.
I love it too.
So I'm just gonna record it and throw it in our Discord, so this way.
No
Do you
ones
have-
or
do you have
twos in the
Nano
top
on
section,
Discord?
but 2 zeros.
I still have my 1, 2, 3.
Because I want to start a channel for my author stuff, but you can answer the
Five,
do if you don't have
two,
piano. So I was just curious.
Yeah, so I was like, I
That
still
makes sense.
think you're right.
It's limited to like 200.
That's good. That's
Yeah.
how you kind of thought your build would be. Just to kind of find some.
Okay.
So it works out.
So, we're gonna go into the 6 fun ones. If you want to write somewhere, probably, if you have a journal or a sheet of paper, that'd be great. If you don't, no problem. Just maybe write a little fainter, but flip over your character sheet and write on the back, or that's fine. Just anywhere you want. You're gonna write down the following. You do not need to spell it all out if you don't want to, just you have to know what you're saying. Write down the following: initiative, speed, proficiency, crit range, max HP, and evasion. So this is where you get to decide, and I'm going to tell you what each of those are in just a minute, but you get to decide which order of importance these are to you. And then you get benefits, no penalties, but benefits based on the order you selected. The most important thing to know is that whichever one you choose to be your top #1 thing gives you a small perk, kind of like a feat from D&D. So that's probably the most important one for you. Also, no 2 people can have more than the same first one because I only printed 2 copies of everything. So if you do, and this is again a group thing, you guys can do, you can do it for yourself, but you can discuss it. I'm gonna tell you what each one is. Is that what you guys are gonna ask?
Sounds good.
Is that what you're gonna ask Ian? Okay. All right, so initiative is when you begin battle, you roll a d20 and you add your initiative bonus, and that's the turn order. The standard initiative bonus is 0, which means you just roll your d20 and that's your result. And then initiative bonuses on top of that. The important thing about initiative to know in my system is that you don't just roll it once for the whole battle, you roll it every 3 rounds, and then the turn order changes. So if you're thinking, oh, it's okay, it'll just be 1 bad turn, it'll be 1 bad turn. Okay, so that's initiative. Speed is how far you move in battle. That's literally the spaces on this board. You can't move diagonally. So if you want to move 2, you have to go 1, 2. Or sorry, if you want to go here, you have to move 1, 2 from here. You cannot move diagonally.
Does that include people like Wall Street?
The diagonal rule does, yes. The standard movement speed is only 3. So if you want to move further, you want to put that one near the top.
Can you move through Wilson Shed?
Yeah.
You're just asking this in case someone can.
Okay. Then proficiency is how much bonus damage you do on top of your dice. So when you roll damage, if you roll a 1d8, you do that and then you add your proficiency. So if your proficiency, the standard is 0, but if you have 2, that means you add 2 to all of the damage you inflict. Okay. Proficiency is damage essentially. It's just
extra damage.
extra
It's not
damage, yes,
proficiency
correct.
in, detecting things.
Correct.
Or anything
Only
like that.
damage.
It's just damage.
Straight up damage.
Okay.
Yep. And it's only bonus damage. All of your attacks will still do damage. They just won't get extra damage.
Yeah.
Crit range is when you're attacking, you'll be rolling D100s. So the standard crit range is 96 to 100 because it's a 5% chance to crit. When you crit, you do maximum damage plus your crit damage. Crit damage standard amount is 1d6, but some people have bonuses. So crits are, and then they're also auto hits if you crit. And max HP is how much HP you have. The standard amount is 20. Yes.
So extending the crit range brings it
Makes it
from
lower.
96 to 100, more like 90.
Correct.
Okay.
Yep.
Increases the opportunity. not the
Yes.
range.
It's like the range of numbers.
The
The
range.
chance that you will crit. Yes. Max HP, the standard is 20. But to be honest with you, HP values are changing quite a bit by person. So if you choose that one as one of your higher numbers, then you'll gain bonus to your max HP. Also, something to note: everyone has an individual heal value that is equal at the start to 20% of your max HP. So when you're choosing max HP, you're also technically increasing your heal value. Okay, and then lastly, evasion. Evasion is the opposite of crit range. It's your chance to dodge. So when I'm rolling attack against you, if I roll a 22 and your evasion is a 24, then I miss. Standard evasion is 20%. So put those in the order you want them. Yes, sir.
In the same way that whenever we pick our top skill gets a perk, are they progressively less valuable as we go,
Yes.
as we order them?
Yep. Certain ones are more so.
Okay.
Yeah.
Are we
So there's
ordering these?
So you're putting them in the order from 1 to 6 that you want them, your character to specialize in them. And this will go on top of bonuses and penalties that your character already has.
So who wants what as their number one?
Yeah.
Since we can only have 2 of each for
I'm
that.
considering evasion at least 1 or 2 since I'm very slow. So, but I don't know. I'm open to suggestions.
But is your character based on?
Your character is based on.
So my
you
question
should
is, do we
have-
think it's more important for me to be able to just about always evade something? Or is it more important for me to have initiative to go first to ensure that I get the opportunity to evade something?
Right.
Ooh.
That's the question. Because my question initially was gonna be like, is this like Pokemon where speed dictates who goes first?
Right.
Because in which case, speed.
Yeah.
But if it's initiative, but I'm evasion based, I can see that going either way.
The first thing I thought of when I heard the evasion part was your character.
Same. But I kept initiative in the back of my head for that reason. If I'm
Yeah.
going,
Now, let's
we
make
have-
evasion your number one.
Yeah.
That's
we-
the whole thing your dude is based around. Let's worry about making sure you can do that to the best
And then
of
if
your
you put
ability.
initiatives number 2, you still get a pretty similar bonus.
Yeah.
The number 2 spot is almost the same as number 1. It just doesn't get It's really hard because it depends how often you're going to be using your basic attack, which you use a lot with your.
Yeah, but if I go down the talent where I don't,
I know. Yeah, so that's up to you. Oh, is that what you're? Was that Hellfire? Because I thought you liked Hellfire,
I did.
and then you read
Another
that.
one you call rain of bullets.
sorry, so speed.
Right? On the talent says rain of bullets.
How far you can move in a single
Far you
turn.
can move in a
Is that
single
one-
I really like that, and then I read that one. I want to do bonus action.
I'm thinking speed should be one of
Oh, I
my
wanna
first
do,
ones out of all of these on. You have to be able to either get two people or move away.
Well, and I
from
have
it.
some
Yeah, the
movement
pack of
bonuses too.
Well, did you see your
Well,
shadow
how
talent?
much do you need to move?
If you look at your
versus
talent
do
tree for
you
shadow,
sell
so if
it
movement's a
like
big concern of yours,
set
your
you
talent
up
tree,
theory
your shadow
or
talent tree,
something?
pretty much like negates it
I
greatly.
don't need the
It should be a full sheet of paper.
My other stuff is that we do it. I wasn't sure how much your guy.
And it's your
Well,
body.
I have a feeling I'm gonna be moving because a lot of, like, I have the inflict shadow damage, but I also have like,
Are you ranged?
yes, as far as I know.
You're mostly ranged. You're a little bit more bursty, Charlotte Dane
Okay.
kind of. The most ranged person is you. You are the highest ranged person
Okay.
because you're guns. These two are pretty ranged,
magic
but
range.
they're a little bit more medium range.
It is.
Super melee, only melee really. And then he is melee but with pets. So he himself isn't melee, but his pets are.
I like that you're a pet of pets.
Right.
Like a neo pet.
Yeah.
Pet. a neo
But
pet.
that's, yeah, all allies on the battlefield. You don't need to be close
And
to
this,
us.
no, this one, I'm sorry, I gave you the wrong one.
Right, because that one's your special talent one, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, but that's still not bad within 4 spaces.
Yeah, but I'm thinking out of all of these
So
that
I
are
would,
there,
I would put it more like at a number 4-ish. This way it's still decent, but it's not your highest.
because out of all these, it seems like that would be the one I would need the most out of any of them.
I mean, I would,
But I'm not sure, like, well, you know,
Eric, you're my healer, right?
I'm a healer. You do heal as well,
I can
correct?
also use.
Okay.
One of you should put crit range as your top ship.
Mine's at 3 right now. But I
Most heals don't crit because you don't roll to attack.
I can also throw.
does proficiency increase bonus healing?
Only if your upgrade allows it, which
Okay.
1 or 2 of them do. I think
But that's
Okay.
damage most.
So if it
Yes,
does,
let me see. Is it
then
every-
proficiency
Yeah.
may be a good one. What are you going with?
Yeah,
What's your
we should
highest?
I don't know right
Yeah,
now.
it might be one of your
I've done
talents.
this
They might not. You might not have it.
Okay.
Yeah.
You make yourself a little bit more defensive.
I don't know.
Because I know Sim does in my where proficiency adds to your healing.
Yeah.
But usually it's not.
Alex, your Gardevoir. You don't want people to get close, but you want to blast
I
the fuck
literally
out of them.
Gardevoir.
So don't worry about going defensive. Blast them. We need you to blast, Alex. We need you to blast. If you're going
I think
defensive or
that
not.
you're the most
I'm counting the
AOE person.
Yeah.
Okay. You got
I was
it.
thinking going for range is my one.
Okay, so you're going crit range. Are you going crit range or are you going proficiency? Because you should be doing one of the two. And then I will go the other one.
I don't know. Either one.
Do you want the chance to hit
Do you want to do
slightly
consistent?
larger consistently?
Yeah.
Or a chance at swinging big occasionally? So then proficiency.
Yeah.
You're going crit range?
Yep.
Okay, do you want me proficiency or crit range? Because I'm good with you.
Yeah, I'm good with that.
Okay.
I don't mind double moving it.
I'll go crit range.
So here's the other reason
I
why I'm
just want
thinking,
the crits.
besides these are 0 and 2, is why I'm thinking either speed or max. Because I want to avoid as much damage as possible. Is what I'm thinking.
Do either of you heal based off damage?
No.
No.
Okay.
I would say.
Yeah, if that was it, it would have been different, yeah.
Great question. Also, that kind of thing is a lot of times what kind of gear I'll give out. Where it'll be like, oh, hey, this is a crown of whatever, and it adds your proficiency to your heal.
Can you choose to delay your turn within the rounds?
Yes, you can go.
So then I would say go initiative number 1, speed number 2. This way you'll always get to choose where in the round you need to go to
And
heal
James
us.
is a huge proponent of initiative for healing.
Yeah, yeah,
Right?
Well, I think initiative is important for every single
It is.
character.
it is.
It does, it's just
But
like speed in Pokemon. If you're
Yeah.
the fastest, if you're support, important. If
if
damage,
you,
important.
if you
If you're
can
tank,
pick
important. It's
where you
always
go in
important.
lineup and then can move a reasonable space to cover the distance, you're gonna get us covered. I think you're right. I think
Yeah.
that's gonna be the way for you to go.
Okay,
I'm
so
good with
everybody
those
has their list done?
No.
No, I just thought
I have two done.
No worries.
We're just talking.
That's good.
I'm not talking.
Just fine.
Was 6 the highest or 1 the highest?
Well,
How are we looking at it?
I was going 1's the highest, 6
Okay,
is the lowest,
cool.
but as long as you know. Yeah, that's fine. The number isn't important. It's just which order it falls in. Okay, so you're done, you're done. You can talk.
Yeah, no, I just, proficiency, evasion, and max HP are the ones I'm trying to figure out what I should do next. I don't necessarily need the chance to dodge if I've already got the initiative and speed so much.
Right.
So I think that might have to be lower on the list,
I
like
think
5
you
or
should go with your
6.
proficiency. at that point. And then your max HP and then your evasion.
Does my
Well, because I still have 4.
affect my
I have crit range also.
I'll do crit range next.
Okay, so then
Or
that changes.
proficiency and then crit range, either or. You know,
Yeah, that's right, kinda like-
Yeah.
I'll tell you this just because I don't want you to feel slighted. If speed is important to you, it only goes up if it's in the top 2 spots.
It's not important.
Yeah, so otherwise it's a +0. You don't get a penalty, but you don't get a bonus. But so
Okay.
if it's important to you, it needs to be in spot 1 or 2.
So if it's within spot 3 to 6, it doesn't make much of a
It's all
difference?
+0.
Okay, so I can put it at number 6 if I'm not gonna have it as 1 or 2?
Yeah, right.
So the 1 and 2 are the most important 3.
Only for speed because speed is such a
Game changer.
it's a game changer for how far you can move. It doesn't change for every character. It's just a game changer for the ones that need it. So I put it. I only it's a +1 +1 +0 +0 +0 +0 depending on what spots. The other ones all gain bonuses if they're in 1 through 5.
Just so I understand it. Because I'm looking at proficiency 3, crit range 4, but I don't know if those should be switched based on what kind of.
Crit range is 6
Bonuses.
because your heals can't crit. So crit
Yeah, but
range
his
is
damage-
Yeah, but I do.
Oh,
Yeah.
okay.
Yeah.
He actually doesn't have so he has more buffs than heals.
Cool. Yeah, I've got basically from these first 3, I have 1 big heal.
If I'm
Technically a shield.
putting an initiative at
Yeah.
5 of my fucking
But it's equal to their heal
You
value.
just be more based on your die. It's the same thing as like a crit range versus proficiency. So you can
So,
still roll a 20.
Proficiency, crit range. Do they get different bonuses based on the position they're
Yeah, because they're not equal.
in? Yeah.
Yeah, because a 5% crit range is equal to like a +2 proficiency. Because constantly getting +2 is just as good as having 5% more of a chance to crit.
Well, based on like what you were saying with speed,
Yeah.
it should be 1 or 2.
Only
The rest of
speed.
it don't matter.
Speed is the only one that you only get a bonus in if it's 1 or 2. The
Are
rest
the
of them,
rest like leveled?
yeah,
Like
they're tiered. Yeah.
There.
tiered, thank you.
And I only said that because if you put speed in your 3rd spot, hoping to get a bonus in speed, you won't.
I appreciate that because that was
I don't want
exactly
you
what
to-
was gonna happen.
Yeah, I don't want you to get F'd because I didn't explain.
Yeah, can't go into
Here's
that
something.
too.
Yes.
That's gotta be crit. Proficiency.
Oh, I have to wait. Because otherwise I'll hear the numbers.
That's fine. I'll move.
No, you're good. You don't have to move. Oh, you want to move. You're good.
Oh, yes, I'm going
I
to.
think you were right. Did you have any like windows you could open? Like, I don't know if we have enough room in here for Ian's big. So now I'm left with max HP and evasion, and I don't know which one is going to be most important to me.
I would stick with your max HP, I think.
And also sort of the same thing as crit range and proficiency. Do you want to always be able to take 1 or 2 more damage, or do you want to luck into not taking any?
Yeah.
Are we reading tonight?
Yeah.
Okay.
Whenever people are hungry.
My wife wants to know.
I'm just kind of leaving it up to when people say, we need food.
Yeah.
And then we'll order something, right?
I mean, I had coffee and a slice of lemon loaf, so I will be able to eat it any time, but I'm not gonna be necessarily needing it in the next little bit. So whenever people are hungry.
List done, your list is done, Ian? Okay.
Wait for her to come back.
Yeah. But I'll start giving out the number one slot. So James, what was your number one slot?
Crit range.
Crit range.
Yeah,
Okay.
it has that too.
So that's this one. I think serendipitous. So there you go. You get serendipitous as your little bonus. So you can basically keep that card in front of you and during battle, and then when you use it, you just flip it over. Little feat for you. Ian, what did you choose?
Evasion.
Evasion. You get avoidance. Woo. And what did you choose?
Initiative.
Initiative. Initiative is last one. Go getter. Go getter. And what was your top one? Your number one slot?
Proficiency.
You get savage sways.
Somebody.
I get
Okay, so that's a little bonus you get. And you just flip the card over when you use it in
Me
the
as
encounter.
fuck. This is me as fuck.
Ian, your character also gets the speedster trait.
nice. Mhm.
Okay. So
You.
I'm gonna go through each one now and give you your bonus. So initiative, who had it in the number one slot?
Me.
All right, you get a +4 and your bonus, your starting value is 0. So you get a total of 4 for your initiative. Who had it in the second spot? James. Felliel has a total of a +2 initiative as a bonus to your character. And then you get +3 for being the second spot. You put it as the second spot. You also get +3, but you also have a +4 character bonus. So you have +7.
What's the first bonus though?
The first bonus.
Like it's a character bonus and a what?
It's like a trait,
Okay,
is what I was calling it. But I'm not coining it. It's not trait TO.
that's fine. I just wanna know.
Who has initiative in third spot? Anyone? In fourth spot, you get a +1 and your character starts with 0. So you have 1 total. Who has in the fifth spot?
Me.
Okay. Your character starts at 0 and gets a +1. So they're at 1. And then no one had it in sixth, right? Right? Okay, perfect. Next up, speed. So to begin with, everybody's base speed is a 3. Did anyone have it in the first or second spot? Second, you get +1. So that becomes a 4. Everyone else, it stays at 3. And the next one is proficiency. The base of proficiency is 0. Henri and Velizar, you both have the base of 0. Seraphine and Azorius, you have a +1 bonus to proficiency, so you start with +1 before you tell me where it's at. And then Felliel, you have a +2 bonus to proficiency as a character bonus. Now, who has it in the top slot?
Me.
You get +2 to your proficiency, which puts yours at a total of 3. Who has it in the second spot? All right, you have a +1 bonus, and you had a starting of 0, so you have 1 to your proficiency. Who has it in the third slot? You have a +1, and you have +2, so yours is now a 3. And then who has it in their fourth slot? You get a +1, and that leaves you at 1. And then it was just you, so yours is a 0. Yeah, so no bonus.
But I had a
But you
plus.
yeah, so it'd be correct. Yep.
My initiative that was at the second slot got a plus
It was plus.
7.
it was a-
started anything,
Sorry, it was a +3 from the
Plus-
second slot.
but a
Plus your character starts at 4, so it makes it a 7.
okay, 7 overall.
So 7 is your initiative. Yes.
Damn.
Just checking.
Yeah.
I'm one.
Yeah. Okay. Crit range 96 is the base, and Azorius, Henri, and Velizar all have the base of 96 before we add in your bonus from what you chose. And Seraphina, you have a bonus Yours starts off at 91. And Felliel, yours starts off at 88. So who has it in their top spot? Oh my God, Felliel. All right, so you both get to reduce that number by 5. So that would be 91 and 83. So that means you crit on an 83 to 100. 17% chance to crit.
Right? Out the gate.
Nice.
Okay, and then who put it as the number 2?
Oh no, my answer died.
You. So you get to subtract your number by 4. I'll go to 92. Oh, I'm sorry. No, putting you at a 87. And who had it in number 3? Henri. You get to lower your number by 3, putting it at 93. And then yours is where? 5th. You get to lower yours by 1. So yours is 95 left. Okay, and then the next one is max HP. No one had it in their top position, if I recall, so I don't think I knew how that was. Okay, so the standard amount is 20 for your HP. Henri, you're the only person who starts with 20 now. So you start with 20.
Suckers.
Serafina, you start with 18, so you have a penalty of 2. Felliel, you start at 16, so you have a penalty of 4. Velizar, you start at 26, so you have a bonus of 6. And Azorius, good job. And Azorius, you start with 30, so you have a 10.
I was joking in my head, like 30.
All right, now let's add in the bonuses you chose. So who had it in 2nd place? Anyone? No? Who had it in 3rd? Okay, so those of you who had it in 3rd get to add 4 to your max HP. Who had it in 4th? No one? Who had it in 5th? Okay, you 3 get to add 0.
Oh my God,
Okay, now your heal value, which is right below your max HP on your character sheet, which go ahead and fill in your max HP on your character sheet. It's on the right side. Do you see what max HP in that box? There.
Oh,
So go ahead and put your number there. And then under it, on that heal value, that is 20% of your max HP, but it's rounded as it would be. So if it's, so does that make sense? So it's mathematically rounded. So what is your max HP? 22, so your total is a 5, or hold on. No,
20%, sorry.
Yeah, yeah, so it'd be, yours would be 4, right?
20% of 20
4
is
times
4.
5 is 20, yeah, so yours would be 4. Yours, 16, so yours would be 3. Yours is
Should be 7.
34, so holy shit. Is that right? 7 times 5 is 35. You were correct, sir. 7 it is. Yours?
26.
You have 26, so yours should be, I think it's 5. 5 times 5 is 25, yeah, it's 5. And yours is, this is why we have a heal box, because otherwise if I said heal for 20%, you have to keep calculating it in your head.
It's 20, so it's 4.
Yeah, it's 4.
Yep. And where is that? That's the heal.
That's your heal. Yep, so whenever you receive a healing, you heal for that amount. You can gain bonuses to your heal though through equipment and also your talent traits. So you can actually heal for a higher percentage than 20%. Okay, the last one is evasion. The base is a 20. Velizar and Seraphine, you both have, you're the base of 20. Henri, you have a 22, so you're a little more evasive. Felliel, you have a 24. And Azorius, you have a 25 base. Who put it in their first spot? You get 5 more. So that gives you a 30% chance to dodge.
He's so OP. What's wrong with your weakness?
Who you chose 2nd? 2nd slot, no one? Okay, and 3rd? You gain a plus 3.
Yeah.
4th, you gain 2 more.
Oh wait, I'm sorry. 3. I have 3.
You get 3
Or no,
more.
I'm 4. I'm at 4. I'm at 4.
You're 4, you get 2 more. 5th, 6th, 0.
That's a real question.
You're 22.
That's fine.
Okay.
And that's evasion.
Yes, that was evasion.
Now that I know how
So
strong
go ahead
you
and
are.
I make sure now you're filling out your character sheet. So
Strength,
Not
yeah,
for
yeah.
you,
Evasion, that's right.
however.
All
that
my
minute-
hands become
yeah.
here.
So it's just a box is down.
Yeah. You.
Oh wait, no, 1 box down.
Or you find a cure for vampirism.
Hey, Azorius, he's just gonna look in that room for us for some minutes.
All right, you guys. So
Tell us what's going on.
I'm going to start trying out other stats, and as I fill out each one, I will also tell you what it means. So the first one that we haven't gotten to is acuity. It's up near the top of your page. Acuity is everyone is going to take a number of acuity equal to what the number I give you. That's these. During combat, you spend these to take an extra action during your turn. Typically, there are exceptions, but typically the rule is you can only do one per turn. You can only get one extra action per turn. There are exceptions, but you will know if you are one of them that has an exception because it will say in your sheet. I think it's only in talent. The standard amount of acuity to begin with is 2, and Azorius, Henri, Velizar, and Seraphine, you all have 2. So go ahead and grab your 2 out of there and put it on your character sheet. And you basically, every time we start session or a new battle or anything, you'll make sure you have 2. So you spend it during battle, and then you reclaim it after battle. And Felliel, you get 3.
Could have told me that before I reached.
All right, the next thing is leadership. Leadership is a power you get to reuse over and over in battle if you successfully roll your leadership, which you roll every 3 rounds. The standard starting amount is an 85%, so you're rolling percent dice. And that means you have a 15% chance to get it, if that makes sense, because you're trying to beat the score. Okay, so 85 is the standard, and Felliel, you are the only one that starts with 85. Velizar, you have a penalty of 87 to 100. Seraphine, you have a penalty of 91 to 100. Henri, you have a bonus of 79 to 100, and Azorius, you have a bonus of 81 to 100. That's leadership.
What is the leadership there again? I'm so sorry.
79.
Okay, you have a power. It shows your face, and it says leadership on it.
Leadership power.
It's a
Alright.
card. You start with that power face down.
Okay.
And anytime you roll leadership, when I'll tell you when to roll leadership, and when you do, it's at the start of every skirmish. If you successfully get it, you get to flip that power over and use it until you use it, and then it flips back over until you get it again. And so it's just a power that refreshes. It's pretty nice, but it's just bonus. So it gets really nice if you upgrade it, because I haven't shown you how the upgrades work yet, but I kind of did on Discord. If you notice that the things that are taped to it, on the back there, those upgrade from bottom up. The second upgrade on your leadership is a passive bonus you get for the whole skirmish. So for 3 rounds when you roll your leadership, I think it's $400. So something to think about investing in. Okay, so the next one is fate points. So fate points are a currency that you get that lets you re-roll dice. So anytime you get a roll that you don't like, you can spend 1 of your fate points and re-roll it. You can do that. Fate points are a group thing. So you can't make the enemy re-roll with fate points, but you can have any of your allies re-roll as well. Obviously, these re-rolls are beneficial only. So if someone crits and you're like, I don't want them to, you can't fate it. Unless
But ooh, James crit failed that roll, and now he's getting ready to die, and we don't want Kevin to have a.
Or he's driving the carriage and it's going over the cliff, and he rolls a 1, and
now we're all going over.
we're all gonna die, so let's fate. The special thing about fate is the second roll is fated, so you cannot fate it again. It is destined to be. And so you have a maximum fate point pool of 3. So that doesn't mean you have 3 fate points. It means you can get up to 3 fate points. So you can write that however you want, as out of 3 or a max 3 or what have you. And that can change on talents and gear, but it starts off with 3 for everyone. Then we're going to go into Grand. Grand is under your attack box. So, Grand. All of your powers have a box at the bottom of them that says Grand. Basically, Grand lets you augment your power to do a grand version of that power. So you have a Witch's Brew, where you have to choose whether you want it to heal or do damage. But if you do a Grand Witch's Brew,
Does
it does both.
heal and then
You have Grand tokens are these red ones here. They work similarly to Acuity. You grab them and put them on your character sheet. When you are out of them, you can't do it anymore. You have to use your power without the Grand box. You spend them whenever you want, but they are only used to upgrade your powers in that way. Does that make sense? Cool. So Grand charges, the standard amount to start with is 2. Felliel, you have 2. Azorius, you have 1. Henri and Seraphine, you have 3.
8.
And Velizar, you have 4. Go ahead and grab the number that I just told you and put it into your pool. And every time you basically start, when you guys get here, you'll grab all your charges and start with them. So you'll always have them in front of you.
Now, what is the max,
Acuity allows you to spend it to gain an extra action.
max to the grand pool, or is there none?
There is no maximum grand pool. It's whatever your starting is. Most powers will not, if there's something that gets you grand in battle, it almost always is spent grand, not gaining it straight up. There is an exception to that, and that is your witchcraft talent tree. But most of the time it's, yeah, your maximum is pretty much what you start with there. Okay, so now we're going to do light, medium, and heavy damage, which is right beneath grand. And the way this works is your powers typically do medium damage, but sometimes they do light and sometimes they do heavy. This is the die you roll when you're told to, when you're following the power instruction. When you're doing things that are not based on your cards, for example, you're at the top of a cliff and the enemy's down below and you're rolling a boulder down onto them, Wile E. Coyote style, it does a light, medium, or heavy damage based on what the action is. And then sometimes I do lots of bonuses. For example, if that would flatten the kobolds at the bottom, I'll be like, okay, great, roll your heavy damage and then multiply it by 4.
Right.
Okay, so your light damage, the normal amount is 1d6. Azorius, Henri, Seraphine, and Felliel, you all have 1d6. Velizar, you have 1d8. That's your light damage. Medium damage, the traditional amount is 1d8. And Azorius, Henri, Seraphine, and Felliel, you all have 1d8. You have 1d10. It's a pattern here. Heavy damage,
It's the mount.
the standard is a 1d12. Azorius, Henri, Seraphine, and Felliel, yours is all a 1d12. Velizar, yours is a 2d8. Then we go to crit damage. The standard is 1d6. This is the bonus damage you add after you crit, in addition to maxing out the damage you would do, right? So if you're doing attacking that's medium and your medium damage is a 1d8, you would do 8 plus your proficiency plus a roll of 1d6, okay? So the 1d6 goes to Henri, Velizar, and Seraphine. Felliel, you get a 2d6. And Azorius, you get a 3d6.
For crit damage.
Smack it home.
I'd like to go back.
Hey guys, I think I'm gonna.
I lost my paper.
Opportunity actions. So opportunity actions is usually opportunity attacks, almost always, but there are some exceptions, which is why I changed it from attacks to actions. They're usually done when a creature moves away from you in battle and doesn't shift, which we'll get to in a little bit. But then you get to take an opportunity swing at them. If they're using a ranged attack right next to you, you get to take an opportunity swing at them. Or if they're standing up from being prone right next to you, you get to take a swing at them. Those are the 3 conditions in which you get an opportunity attack. But there are lots of powers that use opportunity actions. I think your Contemptuous does, Azorius. Yeah. I think your Contemptuous uses opportunity actions to attack. I could be wrong, but I think it does.
Yes.
Perfect. So the standard opportunity actions is 1, and everyone has 1 except Azorius, who has 2.
Dude, this is the most OP person. Like, does this guy have a weakness?
Anyway.
The stupid weakness.
He only has 1 grand.
What?
Can I
Alright.
conjure a ball of
I'll
slime?
kill you when somebody
Stoic
comes
is the next one. Stoic is under your defense, is above your max HP. Stoic is okay. So the idea of Stoic is it's how much you withstand before you start being hurt. So in a way, it's kind of a temporary. Well, not in a way, it is temporary HP that you start the battle with, and you pretty much never gain it again in that battle. So it's just an extra little bit that you take before you start showing that you're taking damage. Kind of like a shield, yeah. In the sci-fi campaign, it literally is like your laser shields before they get through the shield. In this, it's more like you guys are heroes, and like heroes can take a punch or two before they start, you know, bleeding.
So it can be healed back up once it's gone.
Correct. Yeah. So, Stoic, the base line is 4, and Azorius, Henri, and Velizar, you all have 4. Seraphine, you have 6. And Felliel, you have 0.
Oh, super squishy.
Oh! Okay, I'm just remember I'm just gonna heal you a lot.
I'll just be going, heal.
Your regen is how much you regain at the start of your turn. It's the amount of HP that you gain back at the start of your turn. The standard is 2, and Velizar and Seraphine, you have the standard of 2. Felliel, you have 1. Azorius, you have 3, and Henri, you have 4.
I
Okay.
like it, yeah?
Defense. Defense is a 1d6 for everybody. What this is in order to make your character a little bit more fun to play when you're being attacked against, every time I make the attack against you, if it gets past your evasion, you get to roll a defense roll, which is a 1d6. And if you roll a 6, you just block it. You're like, not today, not today. Typically speaking, enemies do not have a defense roll. The exception is my guardian classes. Sometimes do. They're usually the tanks. And so they sometimes do, but not even, they don't even always have it. And then some bosses, but even then, usually not. All right, last 2 items. Resist. So resist is also a charge. It is these blue ones here. Resist is anytime you take damage, you may spend a resist to have it. Or if you are afflicted with an affliction, a negative status ailment, you may spend a resist to attempt to immediately roll a saving throw and save from the effect. If you fail, you lose the resistance anyway. But a lot of times it's still worth it, because if you're going to be stunned and lose your whole turn, the chance to try to save from that before it affects you is worth it. I will also say that because of fate points, you oftentimes will succeed on your resist at the cost of an extra fate point. That's what I've noticed that my other team does a lot. They'll be like, I stun the whole party. Okay, well, we all resist and we all fade it until we do. I mean, again, it's faded on the second roll, but when you get advantage, it's pretty easy to hit 10. All right, so
We tend to do that with acuity too.
yeah. So if you spend acuity and then you miss on your attack, it's like, nah, not happening, fading that. I spent an acuity for this. All right, so resist, the standard number is a 2, and Velizar and Seraphine, you start with 2. Go ahead and grab your 2 blue resist out of there. Felliel, you start with 1. Azorius, you start with 3. Henri, you start with 4. Yeah. Yeah, I only have baggies. Last but not least is your save. Saving throws are what you save. So when an affliction happens on you, it will happen for a duration. The duration is usually, well, it's usually saved, but sometimes it's 1. That means the next time that it would happen, it activates and then goes away. Okay, a good example of that is vulnerable. Vulnerable makes you take 50% more damage. It might be vulnerable 1. That means that you take 50% more damage from the next attack and then you're no longer vulnerable. Vulnerable turn means that this turn you are vulnerable. That's literally the turn it's on, not the round. Round is the whole round. And then rare things or really powerful things can last for the skirmish. That's 3 rounds. But most of the time it's save. Save means you have to roll at the end of your turn a saving throw of 1d20, and on a certain number plus, you succeed. If you succeed, you end the effect. If you are afflicted by multiple things, you roll a separate saving throw for each one. If you roll a crit, which is a 20, you save from everything. And if you roll a crit fail, you don't save from it and you stop rolling to save, and you don't get another saving throw in your next turn. So it lasts for a whole extra round. So crit fails are really bad, and usually that's another place where
That sounds like a good one.
So saving throw, the normal amount is an 11, which means 11 through 20 you would save. And They are, it is 11 to 24. Everyone except Felliel, you get a 10 to 20.
So if I survive, I can save.
Everyone else is 11 to 20, 11 plus. Okay, is there anything on your sheet that is not filled out?
Yeah, I'm missing crit damage.
Oh, that's okay, yours is 1d6. Right.
Yep, okay. Let me use the restroom really quick.
Go ahead.
Power points in gold, right?
Yep, I haven't given those up quite yet.
Wait, what's my initiative?
Your initiative.
One.
Yeah. Ready? Da-da-da-da. Your character, ladies and gentlemen.
I love her.
Go ahead and take a minute while you use restroom to go ahead and fill out your values on your name tag. So we're going to use, yep. A bunch here. You're going to use these wet erase. It will update occasionally, but it won't be super often. Make sure it's dark enough that I can see it because I want to be able to. The most important one is your max HP and your heart. You will not be keeping track of your current HP there. So don't worry about, like, it'll be staying as that number for a while. Gear and stuff will change it. And then those 4 little gravestones I'll get to in a minute. Yes, they are. How are you guys feeling?
So,
Awesome.
So excited.
Awesome.
first.
It's in your heart. Oh, I see.
No, we're.
It's 22, which is in kind of the middle right.
I have a wet paper towel and a dry one.
Yeah, and some of the markers are better than others because they're newer.
Orange, not sure.
Yeah, I'm not surprised.
I was.
Yeah. And so we're just filling out our name tags now with the wet erase markers. And so you're doing your max HP in the heart, and then your number for your stats.
Oh, right.
And you will not be keeping track of your HP on your name tag. It's just a good visual indication for me to know, again, how much my monster should be swinging for.
Okay.
What would theoretically one-shot you?
Yeah. Yeah. Well, and I've done it before where I forgot that so-and-so had X amount of HP, and so it was like, I hit for 19, and they're like, I have 21. Oh, oops.
My bad.
Yeah, drop him quickly, he's a minion.
So max HP.
Yes. Nice. 16. That's scary.
You get a lot of wounds.
Yeah, so I'll explain wounds now. So wounds / exhaustion. And you have 4 boxes for them. So the way that my system works is, so you can get wounds from story elements, right? Like, if you look at the bottom of that Wily Coyote trap and the boulder falls on your head, then you would get a wound. So each wound you suffer subtracts your skill check rolls by 2. Not permanently, just while you have it. So if you have 3 rolls, all of your skill checks are having a -6 penalty. So they're pretty harmful. They're also not super common. I don't give them out for, like, if you take a punch to the face, you're not going to get a wound. If you take 6 punches to the face, you might. The way you die in my system, so kind of an important caveat. If you fall to 0 hit points, if the thing that dropped you was a massive overhit, it was a cannonball to the face and did 82 damage and you have your health, then you might also suffer a wound in addition to falling. But typically you will fall and not suffer a wound, right? Unless it's like this massive hit. But while you are on the ground, any damage you take, instead of going into negatives, you just straight up get 1 wound and we move on, right? If I crit you while you're on the ground and unconscious, it might be 2 wounds. You don't die unless you would take a wound and can't. If it's a story wound and it doesn't seem like a death moment, then we might do some sort of scar, something like that. Sure. Typically speaking, in a campaign, 1 to 2 deaths. I don't do party wipes a lot. There's definitely tension and danger. I've had campaigns that have had more deaths than that, but I don't want you to be afraid to play. I don't want you to be so tentative that you won't explore the dungeon because I could die. I'm not that kind of DM. I'm not trying to bloodborne kill you at every step. Big boss battles, oftentimes where it happens.
Yeah.
Really, really bad combos of rolls can also happen when you're already wounded. I had a person who triple crit failed on a task while they had 3 wounds. They died.
Bro.
So it happens, but it is rare. So that's just kind of the system in general. You can heal from your wounds, not from rests. You have to go seek out aid. And usually it costs gold. Now here's the next part that's kind of weird. I do gold very differently than any other DM I know. Gold is actually a carrying capacity. So it's 0 to 100. 100% is your gold carrying capacity. Once you have 100, you can't pick up more gold because you can't carry anymore. So I also use that to keep track of gold things. So like, for example, when I stay at an inn, I never know whether to be like, oh, does the party have 30,000 gold or 4? I can never remember. And so like, I can't remember how much I have. And so I always have to go, how much do you have again? We add it all up and then I choose anyway. And it's so dumb because it should be, so instead I can do this where it's like, oh, that's always 2% of your carrying capacity of gold, right? So it just makes it makes it so much easier for me and makes it less gimmicky for you. So it's 0 to 100. You guys can all carry the same amount of gold. So you know when you're at 100%, you're at the same amount of gold. Everything in the shops is going to be based off of that 100 scale. So if you came to a shop that was selling armor and whatnot, it might be kind of like 40 to 50%. You guys can pool in your gold together. If you come to like an epic shop that's selling a carriage, for example, that might be like 300 gold, where one person couldn't get the whole thing by themselves. But I will never have something, and I'll never have something that's more than 500 gold because that's how much your party can have. Does that make sense to you? Yep. Perfect. In that vein, we are beginning with gold amounts of 10, 5, 25, 10, 20. So in your gold box on the top right, put that number in.
Right? Vampire. Yeah.
Vampire noble
Yeah,
lives in the
yeah,
largest city
yeah,
in the land.
yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, makes sense.
Meanwhile, I'm a bog witch in like a shack
Yeah.
with a bag. And I'm like, look at gold.
So you have a box on the top right next to gold. This is PowerPoints. This is essentially experience in my system. So you think of it kind of like blood echoes. You get them for killing enemies. Usually it's not 1 for 1. Usually it's at the end of the battle. You get like 1 or 2, depending on how big the battle was. Your powers are upgradable. They have, let me use yours. Okay. They have this on the back of them. They have a number, and that's how many blood echoes / power points you need to upgrade it. And you take this, you untape it, and you slide it down. So now that's visible here. And you keep doing that until it's fully upgraded and no longer card. You probably, if you haven't already, want to go through and look at them because some of them are game-changing power upgrades. Yeah. They get more expensive as you go along. And your leadership is also upgradable. And it's cheap. It's 1, 2, and 3 because you won't always get it. But the second upgrade, which is a total of 3 power points, is pretty big. So especially if you're a leadership character, which I think you are, you might want to consider looking into that. But don't just choose it blindly because I said that it's cool. Make sure to look over your character. Your talents also cost power points, and they're listed at the top of the which one you is how much. So this first one is 5, 5, 5, 2, 2, 3, etc. And so you upgrade that way. As the campaign goes on, you will also get new powers that you can purchase, usually for 5 power points apiece. I just wait a couple sessions to see how your character's playing and then try to fill in some gaps or augment something you really like. And so I make those powers as we go along, or they sometimes happen because of the story element. For example, we've had characters who they were like an archer that lost their arm and they could no longer use their bow. So I gave a bunch of like arrow or sword attacks too.
That's really funny.
Yeah, that happened to Todd. Yeah, he got a mechanical arm, but he had a battery, so he can only activate it like once per.
Oh, well,
Yeah,
like a shitty winter
yeah.
soldier.
Yeah, it was great. You have a question?
It's not really a question as much as it's a comment. This is really cool. This like little mechanism of like pulling it down. And if you ever make this any more than you printing it and laminating it, hit me up because I have ideas.
Okay.
I'm a graphic
Yeah.
designer and this is cool. and I
Yeah.
have ideas.
Yes, I love it. Yeah, so that is how those work, and PowerPoints are what you get for to upgrade everything. You can spend PowerPoints at any time, but typically speaking, it doesn't make a lot of sense for you to use it in the middle of battle. So usually you redo it like it, when you're not in combat. If you want to upgrade it when you're in combat, but most of the time people are so excited they usually spend it either the end of session or the start of the next one, or just when they just get them. And you don't keep track of how many you've got in total, you keep track of how many you have. So if I give you 4 and then you spend 2, this becomes a 2. It doesn't keep racking up because then you'll forget how many you actually spent. Cool. How are we feeling? Okay.
We're only gonna end up needing one of these items.
Correct. I only printed them ahead of time because I thought you might want to look at what's coming up. I might decide, make the decision for you.
I was gonna say, before we get started,
Yeah.
let's take
I was gonna say,
Yeah.
a break
Sure.
and maybe order some food. I want
Absolutely.
to step outside and I want to look over this
Yeah, I have
while
to-
Yeah,
others
totally.
do, just to
Yeah.
start to get a
That's a
feel for what
great
I
idea.
may want to do.
Do you guys have something you want to do for food?
not specific.
He can't do dairy, which I know
James can't.
isn't an issue for you, so it's,
Yeah, James.
Other
is
than
vegan,
that.
so,
Nice.
just something that has vegan options.
No
So
problem.
pepperoni pizza.
So pizza is great.
Yeah.
Pepperoni pizza not so much. That's what I'm saying. But
Sure.
yes,
It would have to be
you
that.
start it back up.
Yes.
Sure.
I just forgot about it. I just saw that.
And so- right.
Okay, got it.
And so the 3 of you are going to be the ones that we start with in the campaign, and you will be meeting
Yeah,
Kevin
you
and
can
Alex's
leave it there
characters.
as normal,
because
but
We
you
after-
have
gotta
a 5
extra
representatives,
one.
so if you want to already want to be there or something.
Yeah, so we'll be starting with the party, and Kevin and Alex
Hold
are
on.
here.
That's confusing. Here, thank you.
Okay, there's one other major combat thing I haven't really discussed yet, and that is advantage and disadvantage.
Okay.
All that means is that when you roll twice, and if you have advantage, you use the better result. If you have disadvantage, you use the worst result. These aren't listed on afflictions and buffs because they're so common.
Can I use one just as a post?
Yeah. And I also have tons of coasters here.
If you'd like an actual post.
Yeah. So, well, they're also pretty.
Well, then let's use them. Cool.
Let me order my neighbor real quick. See. Yes.
Sometimes those guys irritate the shit out of me. and then
Most of the time, but every once in a while, they
Yeah,
just
yeah.
nail it.
Yeah.
And it happens just enough that I don't get really
I don't
upset.
hate them,
Yeah.
but yeah, they did more often than not.
James, you got yours, right? I did. Alex, did you get yours?
No.
Okay.
Or the rest of my rock star.
Do you, if we haven't yet, do you want to start the video again?
I think it's already started
You
again.
did,
Oh, I
you did
did.
restart it, right?
Cool,
So we're going?
Yeah, it
It's
says
recording?
recording.
Oh, does it? Okay.
Yes. Hi, Kaya.
You know what, I have not. Oh, maybe I'll just. All right, I didn't print my history. So.
I feel like doucher being on the.
No, I'm gonna give it a minute, because I shouldn't, it's actually mean of me to hand you
Do
that,
you
maybe
mind?
do it, and then.
We are
talk right
here
over you.
to be like.
Right.
Ooh, no, I get a much needed sit break.
Yay.
I'm glad we're recording.
I kinda.
I'm so glad.
We're ordering food, and this is the most important part of D&D.
Yeah, I definitely didn't need to press play.
You really want to be a part of the whole.
Right, I was gonna say,
In
this
fact,
is the behind
right
the
now, if you
scenes.
could put in your order for Chipotle or
What do you want?
a nearby Mexican restaurant, that will really make you feel part of this.
Guacamole's actually.
Everyone knows that.
Not if you get veggies.
Guacamole, though.
That's facts. That is actually big facts. If you get the veggie burrito, you get guacamole.
I don't like guacs, but
The hell, man.
So
Get the fuck out.
I don't
Figure it
like
out.
avocado at all. It is greasy grass in my mouth.
Greasy grass.
You know? It just,
I was only able to start.
Greasy grass.
Yeah, vegan oil.
Vegan butter.
it's the texture more than it is the flavor.
Like when it's ripe or unripe,
Yeah,
or
I'm
just
just-
every stage.
Oh, it would
Yeah.
work. I was saying I should give you this chair because you're the little hamster, but you'd be just as tall as the rest of us.
Even better reason to get in the chair.
I just give you a question. Right under the table and bow.
I like it.
Everyone got a mini, right?
Indeed.
I'm the mushroom.
Are you?
Yes, bro. Look at my
You'll get
mushroom.
used to it.
You guys, did you say you get used to me?
She grows on you.
I do.
Fungus.
I like
Well played.
fungus are
Put
very.
your arm
Well,
fungus
that's
out.
They're highly adaptable.
Morel?
We're also like the longest.
Yes, in
you said?
a Morel can.
It's a fungus or a hive mind.
But in French and Cajun. Something like some kind of god, something. Like I chose names that were like, here I am, motherfuckers.
Yeah. Well, I mean, you wouldn't play D&D and name yourself peasant.
You watch
Maybe
it.
I'm ready. You know what? Come here.
Lord Azorius, okay.
Ah,
And all you can say is,
Failure.
but you can do it in different tones of voice.
Failure. Failure. Like.
Yeah,
failure.
that's sad.
What's that?
Yeah, he almost did it, and then someone else chose to be a robot character, so he didn't want to step up.
Understandable. I wouldn't want you.
I bring butter.
The last character he was a
Bring butter.
character that was a combination of all
No, I
pieces
just know
of the
that
realm,
one.
and so he was flirting with the character. And he goes, "Hello, I am
Say that to
sculpted
Morel.
by gods."
that's fantastic. That's awesome.
And you are absolutely right. As powerful as these characters are. they're-
Oh, yeah, terrifying.
Yeah.
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 You guys are all
that's right.
excited. I'm scared.
Right.
Which I
You're
think
the
is the
tank.
appropriate.
Yeah.
You don't have to be scared until you fall.
Yeah, right. Everything's okay as long as you're up.
Yeah, and then we yawn and kill us.
Yeah. Hey,
It's great.
get back up.
It's great.
I didn't sign up for that.
Oh, he's down. Let me just, okay, guys, he's back up. Don't worry. Let me get your character sheet on.
You just have like print out little cards for when they die, like here's you now.
Going with revelry. Check it out.
Leadership is once per encounter, right?
No, it's when you successfully roll your leadership, you gain it. So you start off the battle with it face down, and then every time you roll it, you get you get to use it.
I want to play that. That's what you need to play that
Nope.
because there's so many things.
Mhm.
Oh,
That's what I was thinking about earlier, and I was like, I want to make a map for all of these
Yeah.
things.
Yeah.
I might just like go home and like fucking make some shit. I don't know, man.
Because then you have this just printed on there with the numbers and just slide the card out.
So, yeah,
You
yeah.
know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like if there's just room for that,
Mhm.
or down, whatever.
Yeah. I love playing that, so I mean, I'm so
Yeah, it's just a player playing that that's generic to each thing that each
Yeah.
person could plug their
Yeah.
stuff into. Yeah, that's
I think everybody.
the last piece.
I both got it, right? You got yours? And yeah, we're good. Okay. You got yours? Okay.
Hold on. We have. Yeah. 6 or whatever.
Oh, real quick.
Speaking of.
Oh, they talk about how gross it is. Maybe once more.
when you go to the protein.
Yeah, it's not on there.
I bet you it's under customized, isn't it?
Yeah.
Sure is.
Mhm.
What you doing?
All right. First, fun little trivia. Who remembers or knows? James, you won't know the answers. You didn't get the Discord. He's always the one that knows everything when we do this because I brainstormed the whole world with him. But in this case, he was not a part of this.
That's why
All
my
right.
knowledge is a 1.
So,
Oh, man.
who can tell me what the name of the world is?
Oh, bro.
Tenebris?
Incorrect.
Wait, sorry, were we going planet or the realm?
World.
Okay, Archaeon?
Very close. I will give it to you. It's Acheron.
Asher, that's right.
So you get a fate point. What's the name of the continent you're on? Tenebris? You don't have a fate point again. You're paying attention to Kevin, so that counts. And okay, so good job. There are 4 races on Tenebris. I know, right? Well, that's why you just get bonuses. There's no penalties. There are 4 races on Tenebris. So the way I was gonna have a map, but I ran that. So this is how it works. So welcome to Acheron. The world has several continents, but we will be focusing on Tenebris, the southeastern continent, known as the Fallen Realm. It is called this because it is the birthplace of the Sanguine Curse, a curse that afflicted all of its peoples 600 years ago. At the time, there were many a human on Tenebris. Now, there is but a fraction of that population, though other races have grown up in their absence. The other race to rival the humans back then were the Eidolons, a race of fayish creatures that had a marvelous capital in the southeastern corner of Tenebris called Kithmalis. They were a powerful magical society, and they were brought to ruin several hundred years ago. As the Sanguine Curse ravaged the population of Tenebris, a second threat came from below. Deep beneath the surface rose the race of infernals, and they emerged in Kithmalis itself, bringing the Eidolons to their knees. The Eidolons perished to the very man, not a single one left in all of Tenebris. Their capital of Kithmalis was renamed Brimgate, and it is beyond the gates of sulfur, and it is a realm of darkness. Not in the physical sense, because that's Noctis, but in a sinister way. There is no law beyond the gates of sulfur, but that of might makes right. And the infernals are always the mighty. To the north is the human nation. From my notes, I think it's New Haven. Is that right?
Sounds about right.
It sounds right? Of New Haven. And New Haven is not overly welcoming of other races because beyond, in their lands, the Sanguine Curse is more or less contained. And several hundred years ago, the vampires founded their own city in the west, And this is the capital city of Noctis. It is the largest city on the continent, and it is a city shrouded in eternal night. The vampires open their doors to all, and for free will welcome the masses and cure them of the sanguine curse.
Say that last part again.
They open their doors to all, and for free will cure other races of the sanguine curse. This freedom is not without its own costs, as the vampires have gained a prominent foothold on the continent in terms of political power, and also in terms of raw need. All the races that are afflicted by the sanguine curse rely on the vampiric nation to cure them. The final group, and they are newer to the continent of Tenebris, are the mutants. They do not have a nation. They are a scattered collective. But they tend to congregate mostly in the Harrowed Lands, which is the center of Tenebris, be kind of wedged in between all three nations. The Harrowed Lands are called that because for centuries, all three races have contested those lands, but they're oftentimes by locals and abroad called simply the Harrows. The blood curse does run rampant there, but it isn't necessarily contagious so much as it is, what's the word called when you pass on to your kids? Hereditary, genetic, yes, either one. Since we are not in a world of genetics, it's probably more hereditary. And so mutants too suffer from this. Some would say they suffered the most. Where the mutants came from or how they showed up on Tenebris is unknown. Some say they're the experiments of the Eidolons finally escaping captivity as the Infernals took over. Others say that they were Eidolons who were twisted into their form by Infernals. And some think they're what happens when the sanguine curse runs rampant and turns humans into beasts. What is known about the mutants is they are everything from mindless flesh abominations all the way up to half-human hybrids, all the way up to mostly human with, like, say, one dog ear. Yes?
Just to clarify, at one point in time, the sanguine curse wiped out most of the continent.
Yep, mostly humans.
Mostly humans.
Yep.
And now it's somewhat widely held belief by some that maybe the sanguine curse running rampant creates beasts.
Or that it is what's left of the survivors.
Okay, sure.
Yeah, good question. And the last couple years, maybe 3 years, has seen a decrease in bloodshed between the three nations. Infernals more or less keep to themselves. They would probably be the wild card in this union. The vampires and humans have often warred despite the need for humans, the need for vampires by humans, because the humans envy the political position of the vampires, especially since they basically usurped them when they started to cure the curse. And so it's led to tensions that have been more Cold War-y in the last several decades than an actual onset of war, but the last 3 years has been the first steps towards peace. And the first Tenebrian coalition, called the Alliance, the Tenebrian Alliance, was formed, mostly between the upper echelons of the vampires and the human society. The upper echelons of the human society are called the Cabal, because humans are kind of like a collection of individuals that are partially between, depends on geographic, but partially between kind of like slumlord, swamp hut kind of New Orleans gangster type bit, all the way up to about like frontier land humans. They don't really have like, this is not a castles and fortresses and military arms human. This
But they are
is
the
much
people that-
more.
Run their.
They run their area, and they're called, and the people that run it are called the Cabal.
Okay.
They're the upper echelon, and but there's no like kings and queens. This isn't medieval
Yeah.
Europe.
Yeah.
This is more like somewhere between Wild West and almost like Mayan Aztecan civilization. Kind of were taken two wildly
Sure,
different things and
sure.
mushed them together into there.
They
Right?
work together when it benefits everybody, but they've all got their own agendas,
Yeah.
probably.
Yeah.
Okay.
Whereas Noctis is very unified. They are less populous than humans, even though humans were depopulated so much. They're still less populated than humans, but not inside Noctis. In Noctis, vampires are a little bit more popular. They're still rare, especially elder vampires, which elders are the ones who rule over Noctis, and they are in families. And family, each of the elder families is given high esteem and power, both politically and also physically. Very little is known about the depth of what goes behind the scenes with these vampire families, but everyone knows that they're very powerful. And then the very far less is known about the Infernal's structure. It appears that they don't have one. If you go into the Infernal Lands, it's about a 50-50 chance you'll come back out.
So do they have representatives in this alliance?
They do, but they seem to be more playing with the alliance than truly committed to it. The representatives never seem to be the same Infernal. And sending in alliance members to find Infernal representation has also proven challenging. Infernals tend to be the ones to make contact with the rest of Tenebria rather than the other way around. But they sure didn't want to be excluded. It is among this backdrop that we begin our campaign. Some important locations. So Noctis in the west. New Haven, we think, in the north. It's now New Haven, canon.
Story truck all.
Brimgate in the southeast. In the center is the Harrowed Lands, which is a pretty large portion of Tenebris. And in the center of the Harrows is a large town called the Crossroads. It takes about 2 days to cross the Harrows, and then about 1 day in either direction to get to the edges of the different realms. So the continent of Tenebris is not enormous, and that's intentional because I absolutely hate travel.
Yeah.
And so I Game of Thrones it, where the first episode, oh man, it takes you 6 sessions to get to that city, but next time you're just between. So instead I made it nice.
Okay, so I have
Yes.
Noctis, New Haven,
Yeah.
something.
Brimgate.
Okay, I missed it the first time too, and I put asterisk something infernally. But it's a Brimgate, I'm like, oh yes, much better.
Brimgate is south and New Haven is north.
Yes, New Haven is north and Brimgate is southeast. And in the center is the Harrows, and in the center of that is the Crossroads. To the far east, just north of the Gates of Sulphur, was the town of Innorook.
Far East, you said it?
Far east. The only thing beyond it, the only thing more east, are the swamplands that are called the Weald, W-E-A-L-D, which is just a synonym for swamps. And
Sorry, I just missed the lot.
so you have Crossroads here. So the stars.
No, these are just the different areas.
Perfect. So Crossroads is somewhere right around there.
Okay, Crossroads.
And then Innorook, let me see where you're at here. Innorook is going to be somewhere around there-ish. And beyond that is just the Weald, which is a giant swamplands. Never, sorry. And I will be honest with you, my east-west is so backwards. So if I say the wrong thing, just correct me. I tried really hard, but you'll see me do this a lot. Okay, so I didn't figure it out because I'm really good with north-south, East-west is really weird.
Never
I've had
eat
Noctis in the
chocolate.
right this
That's
whole
what I-
time, but it's the west.
Yeah.
It's
So,
different, I think. Every turn is weird.
I do, yeah. So rhymes. Okay, so,
Those are
not really soggy waffles if they're soggy because they're in service.
facts.
Okay, so, and then just outside of Innorook is a small town called Exerdale. It's on the way from the Crossroads, so it's kind of northwest of it.
And what's it called?
And it's called Exerdale. This is 2 weeks ago, the town of Innorook vanished off the surface of Tenebris. Exerdale is now the furthest eastern town before the swamplands. And they aren't overly thrilled at the amount of attention they're getting because they're now their new position on the map. The disappearance of an entire town has the Alliance a little alarmed, and thus they have sent a group to investigate. But the group never returned. So they decided to send more important, more skillful adventurers. And that is where the three of you come in. So the Tenebrian Alliance sends Henri Morel, Azorius of House Ghostvein, and Felliel the Firebrand to investigate the missing town. The three of you meet up in the Crossroads as dusk has set in. It's a little bit after dusk, after nightfall. One thing to know about Tenebris, most of the continent is nocturnal, probably due to the influence of the vamps.
About Tenebris as a whole.
Yeah. Another thing to know, I will be using lots of terms synonyms for the different races. The Infernals are oftentimes derogatorily called demons. The vamps are called vamps or bloodsuckers. The mutants get all sorts of sad names. And the humans are usually just called humans, but that's not always a compliment.
That's enough.
Is the
It's
nocturnal
enough.
aspect for the races as well as the wildlife?
No, more of the more just the races.
Or just the
Yeah, the
races?
wildlife still normally adheres to. However, there are some changes to that as environment has encroached on their territory. But yes,
So
typically
like,
speaking,
even the
it's still
humans
races.
have adapted to being
Yes.
more nocturnal.
Yes,
Okay. Do they have any special applications for that? Do we know?
not that you are aware of. One other thing to note: magic in Tenebris. I put a Discord about this and then I deleted it because I felt it was like way too much about it. It's like, but, so I'm just going to talk about it for a minute. Good, good. And so on Tenebris, the magic is not it's not a like wizards walking down the street popping things out. It's more like a kind of encroaching, creeping magic. There's a lot of magic in the world, but it's not your flashy fireball lightning type magic. It's much more witchcraft and voodooism and darker arts. The Infernals and the Eidolons before them were the most flashy evocation type. Infernals still can be, but they aren't all like that. But think of the difference as kind of like the difference between like X-Men and Hellboy. It's like, it's a darker feel. It's more magic that's helping to do something else well, as opposed to you don't have to be strong. You don't have to lift a carriage because you can just make the air do that. That's not the kind of magic that this society has. Because of that, you're not going to find a lot of people who can do things like nuke a village off the face of the world. But you could perhaps find a coven of 50 people who did something to infect the land that over the course of a week ended up crumbling everything away to ash or something. where it's much more of an effort to do this magic, and it's combined together. Does that all make sense?
Yeah.
Cool. So the three of you are meeting up in the Crossroads, basically a day before you head, or a night before you head out to Exerdale. And you are meeting with the representative that also met with the prior group that came through and went to explore Innorook and then vanished. And his name is Lord Fernigus, and you're pretty sure the Lord is self-proclaimed. He is human. He is a kind of a skinny, hunched over kind of figure, with kind of lanky hair, and he has lots of like ornaments of bone and stuff kind of hanging off of him. Also, I kind of said this to these two, but didn't say to the three of you. Well, the two of you. On Discord, you have your first little history thing that I sent you. Feel free to pull that up and look at it as we're role playing stuff or things you might question. You also just ask me and I'll fill you in. You also can just make shit up. But now the things you make it up, if you're not lying, can totally become canon. But what I'm saying is that we're kind of creating it all together as we go, in addition to the history you have. Sure. So if someone asks you a question and you're not sure the answer, you don't have to ask me, you can, but you can also just answer very confidently what you want to be the case, and we will weave that in. Okay? So feel free to take as many of those like self-personal leaps as you want. If someone asks you, are you able to conjure up birds from, and you're like, that's not really in my wheelhouse, but you know what I can do is create the spirit of birds. And we've never talked about that. I'm fine with that. We're just gonna roll with it. Yep. But if you're like, yeah, I could totally sound like it was a real person died, and be like, okay, rolling a little lie check, mister, because that is not happening. Anyway, but in general, feel free to like make your character as we go, and we'll just make it all canon and we'll keep going. Because it's a collaborative.
Question.
Yes.
Is Lord Fernigus?
Yes.
Because he is self-proclaimed cabal. Do I know this person?
You are only aware that he is your contact in the Crossroads, and that he likely is, was given about as much information from the same people as you.
Okay. I really like the whole disappearing thing. It reminds me of like Roanoke.
Yeah.
From history.
Yeah. That's the yeah. Yep. So as you kind of all come into the bar, Lord Fernigus says just a little straighter, just still pretty hunched, and says, "Oh, good, you've made it. Please introduce yourselves. We shall begin alphabetically."
I'm not here, so.
Correct, it's you three.
Oh yeah, you guys are here.
Yeah.
That's right.
Yeah.
My name is Lord Azorius of the Ghostvein family.
Another Lord. Excellent. And you?
That is so good.
I'm waiting for the other fancy lad.
Thank you for calling me fancy. I love it. My name is Henri Morel.
Is there a Lord in front of that?
I think that's about as much information as you need.
Understood. And you?
You can call me Felliel.
Felliel.
That's close enough.
He kind of spits a little as he says it. So, you've come to investigate Innorook, huh?
Mm-hmm.
With authority.
I mean, what else is there to do?
Lots. The Harroweds have seen some hard times of late.
More than a town disappearing.
Well, no. That's pretty been the headline.
So that's what I thought.
Yes. So, can I get something to drink?
Depends on what you got.
What would you like?
Hmm.
Ale.
You seem like you drink something that's of a harder.
I usually stick to the hotter.
Well, perhaps something here will catch your eye. Would you care for a glass of blood, sir?
Please.
He goes behind the bar and grabs something, comes back out, and pours it like wine. Hands it to you.
Ooh, I imagine it's going to be viscous.
Thank you.
Yeah, it almost looks like a smoothie.
So now it's not like good, and you just have to. It's the same. If you enjoy it.
From a fine establishment such as this, of course.
The proprietor
So
of
bad
that.
I'm not here.
You don't have to have one of those fancy glasses I can have.
Of course, of course. Are you sure you're not a lord?
I don't claim to be one.
Ah, yes, big fancy words like that. Troll queen. So,
Close enough.
did you have any questions about the investigation?
What do you know so far?
Oh, lots of things. I know how to hunt a bane wolf.
What do you know about the disappearance of Innorook?
Less, unfortunately. You see, it seemed to go missing about 2 weeks ago. I think that lines up with what I said earlier.
I think that's pretty common.
Sure.
Here.
And everything's gone. Everything. The buildings, the people, the animals, even the bugs.
There was a party that passed through here earlier. Do you know what happened to them?
I don't think anyone does. I didn't escort them, but maybe they made it all the way there. We'll know when we get to Exerdale, which I will be escorting you personally because I don't think they're gonna let me do a third one.
What did the other party look like? What were they comprised of?
There was a vamp that was leading them, a vampire that was leading them, and some lord, we call him Fellock, and they had 2 humans with them. One of them kind of portly, and his wife. They all disappeared.
So you know they disappeared, even though you said earlier you weren't too sure.
Well, we're making some assumptions. You see, they were supposed to report back after traveling there, but we haven't seen them come back through. Have you 3 worked together before?
I've never met these fellows in my life.
Well, then allow me to toast to the new Tenebrian Alliance coalition of Innorook.
Just grab one bubble.
Here.
So I can show you to your rooms if you want, and we can head out in the evening. It's weird because it's not the morning.
I don't know about you all fellas, but I'm really keen on resting right now.
I'm not really.
I could use a good night of rest before traveling on alternative.
As could I. I could barely sleep last night for fear of meeting all of you.
That's good instance that you got there.
Thank you. Tell me, why did they send an infernal this time?
Why'd they send you last time?
Well, they didn't send me so much as I was to give them information and then send them on. I did that, but they didn't come back. That was part of the agreement.
So you were hired here to talk and pass information.
Yes,
Specifically talk to lots of people.
yes. Yes. Would you like me to talk more?
Before I turn in for the evening, what information was it that you were supposed to pass on to the first party?
Well, mostly information about how to get to Exerdale, but this time I'll be escorting you personally. Oh, there's a lot of S's in words. Just noticed. Yeah, that one was a surprise.
Do you know by chance that
It's only about 8 hours to Exerdale, and if they investigated the village a week ago, I would have expected them to come back by now. So I assumed they did not.
Right? Make me want to like see if I have something.
Down drink water.
That would make it worse.
You know what's funny? I really confused.
Oh, you gonna talk?
Oh. 14.
Thank you. I hope you do too.
Oh, I will.
So, I have all of our stuff for the morning. Is there anything you wanted to do other than drink and sleep?
I had one more question.
I don't mind at all.
These directions you gave to them, even though you're escorting us,
Yes,
feel like they were accurate.
I hope so. I've been there several times. I'm a ranger.
Do we intend to follow the same route?
Yes, but maybe I'll rethink that.
Have you been there recently? How do you know that?
About 3 months ago. Then the town's still there. Still there.
You haven't been there, and the people they sent disappeared. Maybe they disappeared with the town and disappeared.
Are you suggesting that this is contagious?
I didn't say that either.
It's, I don't think in this world that that's an impossibility.
Well, I sure hope not. That would be horrible.
I think we can all agree on that one.
Exciting, yes. So, any other questions before we go?
Yeah,
Yes,
can I get 2 more of these?
yes, you may. Shunk, shunk. It's the shunk sound of that. You should hear me snore. Okay.
I don't think I'll take these to my room. Show me.
3 days ago, in Noctis, shortly after speaking with the head of House Ghostvein, Lord Tenebrius, that's the head of House Ghostvein, you were approached in secret by someone else. A shadow falls on you as you're in a parlor and you're kind of sipping on a glass of wine, and the shadow from behind you says, I have been watching you.
Me?
Yes.
Okay, hold on, I'm taking that.
You recognize him as council member Darkova of House Bloodraven, one of the 4 elder families.
Oh, yes, I hear this.
One of the highest
And
houses.
he said, Jehovah.
Okay, so Shadow comes over me
Yes.
while I'm in the bar still?
No. This is 3 days ago.
Oh, 3 days ago,
Yep.
after I spoke to Lord Tenebrius.
Yes.
So I'm still in Noctis.
Yes.
Okay. Shadow comes over me,
Yes.
dude from the council.
Yes.
Other family.
Yes.
Got it.
I know that those Ghostvein star is rising. Russellvania things. Russellvania. Look, Asian. So fuck you. I have a proposal. Something that may help make your house a little taller. But let me read my notes just real quick. Well, you pass on food, yes?
Okay, here's chips and burritos. And then here are the burrito bowls.
Mine's a burrito bowl.
Okay, -2.
Yes.
Extra one. Or just one.
Or just one. Maybe for the chips.
We get chips and
They didn't
Yeah.
mark any of these, just,
Nope,
you're,
yeah,
they're all
literally,
Kevin's. They're all
they're
Kevin's.
all marked Kevin.
Well, you usually tell James it's a little bit lighter than the rest of
Sometimes it sounds small.
There you are. No, this is well, it's just a hold up. That's so great.
You got the anemic syndrome.
Okay. I'm assuming that might.
Wait, yeah.
It's mine or yours.
That one isn't mine, so
That might be
that's
mine.
probably yours.
Carnitas?
Yeah.
Okay, I did carnitas too.
Oh, okay.
I did mine with corn though, and it looks like you did
This
new
has some-
corn.
Yeah, there's corn on this
Wow.
one. There's fajita veggies. Did you?
I did fajita
This one's
veggies.
yours.
Yeah,
Cool.
this one's.
Okay. Then 50-50.
So it's rock and fajita.
If you want, there's a little side table for people.
I
I don't know which one is yours, which
I'm
one's
assuming
mine.
this is mine. I got lettuce on it.
Okay, Someone shifts, well,
That's mine. Thank
Looks like
you.
you have plenty either.
no, one of these is yours.
Is that one yours?
I'm assuming.
Well,
it's
it's-
shit.
Who else has the burrito?
I'm guessing this one.
Did you get? I don't know if this is yours or mine because I can't see past the lettuce.
Did you do
I
lettuce?
did.
Okay.
Did we get an extra?
I got a burrito.
Okay, I don't know which one.
James, what did you get?
I got steak, but
Well, no,
mine
I
has
mean,
like cheese and
Well, I
sour
mean,
cream,
are we
so it's
missing the
definitely
burrito?
not.
No, I know. Okay, cool. That's
Yeah,
what
mine was releasing guacamole, so I didn't get this one. Then I have
What kind of meat is that?
Question mark.
Just gonna see if I see any like. Yep, sour
This
cream and
looks like it
cheese.
has
So
veggies
there's
on
yours.
it.
Okay, mine doesn't have veg.
Sour cream.
Oh, mine either.
Okay.
Did you get something red?
I got tomato sauce. But there's tomatoes on this one too.
Well, because those at the bottom. How many are tomatoes? Did we just get the same thing?
Did you get carnitas?
No, I got chicken.
Okay, then this one's mine.
Cool. Almost the same.
Amazing.
We got some. Well, James learned about it. Cool. Makes sense.
He's on it, don't worry.
Could I trouble you for a drink?
Would you
Like
like?
in real life?
I have water, Dr.
Dr.
Pepper.
Pepper.
Okay.
If it's,
It is not cold.
it doesn't matter.
Okay.
If you're good with that.
Yeah, totally. I just wanted to warn you that it's not cold.
James doesn't like his refrigerator.
No.
Gotcha.
Yep.
Thank you.
Anybody else want anything?
I'm probably gonna stand.
When you see me, I keep sitting. Go right ahead.
You know how it goes.
Okay.
Okay, dude comes to me, says he can
Yes.
offer to make my shop
House big.
house bigger.
I was gonna say.
Right. And then what I kind of blacked out because then there was food.
Oh, that's actually as far as he got, so.
That's as far as
Yeah.
They got-
Then we started talking about the accents.
Right. Okay, I'm listening.
The Coke's not
Yes. Let me just make sure there's more.
cold. You want us to put a Dr. Pepper in the fridge?
No, it's fine.
Oh, no,
You
there's
don't have
plenty.
one.
There's height. Yep.
I'm sorry you have to watch this eat, Kaya.
I'm not.
No.
I'm
She'll get it when
fine.
she gets here, it's fine.
Like Chipotle?
No.
That's Chick Creole?
What's the Chipotle equivalent?
Taco Bell?
Chips.
They have almost
Indian
zero
food.
Mexican of any
It's
kind.
basically Indian food. It's like the most common
Yeah.
thing.
I mean, that's pretty- very different.
I
House
want
builder.
you to help my house with a small task.
I'm listening, sir.
You can kind of feel this like almost,
There's a presence, right?
Yeah,
Like a
almost
tangible
a
presence,
palpable.
right? Yeah.
yeah.
because Elders normally do.
And it's like that shadow falling over you is like physical.
Right, yeah.
And,
Get real respectful real quick.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's also kind of like, it's kind of like, if someone walks in with a gun, right? It's like that
I hate
feeling
that
of like,
feeling.
yeah, and you're like, okay, so I know that nothing's gonna happen, but like if they wanted to, something could kind of say,
Hey, time out. Did you establish where we were?
not this.
But like,
I did not say anything other than that. You're in a parlor. Like
Parlor.
they're just you. Like,
okay.
like
got
this
it.
is your place. Your
Okay.
space.
I dropped down to a knee and bow my head and ask what he would like to do. Like me to do? What his task is, whatever. That. Inquire more.
I put that.
As I bow my head.
You have recently received an assignment. One to investigate what occurred at
Yeah. Sorry.
And?
Yeah.
I wish for that to stay buried.
And what of Lord Fellock?
I think he has been dealt with. But if he hasn't, please ensure he stays dealt with. And in exchange, I'm more than happy to look to Azorius of Ghostvein to fill this upcoming vacant seat in our lower council. You know it's a path to the highest.
I understand.
Excellent. I am most pleased at your discretion.
Worst part about this is we don't get to know each
And
other.
he-
Not at all.
I know, we don't know any of this.
As a human who's playing the game, it pisses me off.
Good job. I liked your falling down to the knee. Excellent.
I was like, wait a second, hold on.
Yeah,
Elder
yeah.
family.
Great. It's great.
I like that. Is like, is anyone with me? No.
But I also like that.
I'm not gonna show weakness to
Yeah.
someone else.
What's my surrounding and where are we? Is
I was
it
gonna
all
say,
right?
if we're in the middle of the town square, I'm absolutely not gonna do that. If we're in my bedroom and this dude just creeped up, absolutely.
Yeah, sure. It's that important. Then.
Yeah. Holy crap.
Yeah, I don't mess around with my food.
I don't know. I thought I didn't mess around.
Just be a Kirby. Thing, as far as like people in that kind of line of work, your time is limited.
Yeah, oh yeah.
I mean,
That's how it is.
I grew up in restaurant kitchens, so my dad eats standing up out of the pot.
Mhm.
I grew up poor with other large siblings. You didn't eat fastest, you went to bed hungry.
That was my mom's family. There was 5 of them, and they were like, if you didn't eat fast, you didn't get seconds. Like, all right, you fucking
You've
traitor
got his men
already.
ready.
All right, you traitor already.
We just wanted to find out what happened to it.
No, he wants you.
That's my job.
He wants you to take care of that one
Make
guy.
sure it stays that way.
Yeah.
He's already been dealt with. My job is just to find out what happened. I don't have to save anything. That's
Make sure
not in
he
my
knows about
script.
it.
Yeah. I just have to report back and go, yep, shit's gone and that dude's gone
Maybe
too.
this elevator just
Mission
wants to be a
accomplished.
wonder of the world.
Right, see?
Solve mystery.
Wow.
Done, done.
I already have a feeling
That's nice.
one of us is gonna be like, you need to make sure this is publicly known.
Around the same time as that's happening.
Meanwhile,
Northern City, New Haven,
New Haven.
Henri Morel has just received his assignment from Caliday of the Shadow Masks. And it is very important that you retrieve it and bring it to us. Before heading out on your journey, you decide to consult the spirits. And so, in a chamber of your own devising. And I use the word chamber very loosely. This is more like a hut of your own devising with, lots of effigies and things hanging down, and you're kind of consulting this, and
Dead bodies.
and
Watch it.
and there's kind of a wind kind of whispers through the reeds of the hut and moves the bone effigies that kind of click together and clicking and cracking. And normally when you do this, the spirits kind of push and prod, whisper, but something about tonight is different. Something in the air. There are no whispers, no pokes and prodding. It's like the spirits are afraid. And as you kind of begin to close your communion, a little uneasy, something approaches. An abnormally potent spirit, clearly an eidolon. And it says, you probably have some sort of term or name that the spirits call you. It's different, like a title. How many it is? I haven't come up with one.
Bone man.
A spirit walker? You are the one.
That's definitely what they call me.
I am also called many names. Sorry, Kaya, you won't be able to hear any of this. We'll need subtitles.
Is there a presence or is it just spirit?
It is a spiritual presence.
What?
Yes. I am Sindikai, a storm tower. And I am interested in the odyssey before you.
What hell are you interested in?
I represent an interested party.
Will I know who this interested party might be?
And we are everywhere. The vengeance pact watches you.
What can I do?
The artifact you seek has the power to harm the lost of kin malice. You must destroy it. You are watched. And it receives, leaving you no less uneasy. Yes.
Can I ask you a question in private?
I think I might know what it's about.
Okay, right.
If you want, you can text me too.
Yeah.
I will do my best.
I don't think I have to.
That's fine. I will generously give it to you.
I was gonna say, texting is how we do a lot of like, hey, that just happened and now Azorius and I need to have a role play. We'll do it while everything else is going on. I'll just text. And then I'll fill in Jay. Hey, we kind of hashed this out. Here's what we kind of came to. Here's
Similarly,
what's
you
going
can
on.
Discord by the
Okay.
Yeah, if you want to do something secret,
Yeah.
if you don't want the party to know, you can say, hey, my character does this.
My character.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah,
Since,
all the
we
time.
all have different agendas.
Yeah.
My character hit pause.
The next evening, you three, so next evening from current time, you flash back over. You begin heading
Now, 4
To the
days.
future.
We're 3 days back, we're 4 days ahead.
Yes, you will begin heading toward Exerdale, the four of you, as in Felliel, Azorius,
Our favorite lord.
Henri, and Lord Fernigus. Fernigus. It was really mean to put an S in his name.
It's a good thing it wasn't like Shanegus.
Genetic. And you begin to make the trek toward Exerdale. Can you please tell me, of the three of you, which of you is probably the most nature guidey?
That would be me.
Okay, excellent. And will you give me a question check, please?
Question check. What do I roll for a question check?
Sorry.
D20.
And then you add your questing, whatever number's next.
Okay. Got a 9 plus 2, 11.
Okay. Excellent.
You find a tree.
Nope. Rewind. 6 plus 2 is me.
Okay.
Ooh, you find a bush.
But it's sharp.
Tree was gonna have fruit on it, now it's dead. So you notice that there, that the road that he's taking is barely preserving the name. I'll give you a little bit of so as you're walking, it's kind of like an uneven brushland, kind of a dirt and maybe a little bit of sand with low bushes. So you feel like you can see in kind of a distant direction, but the ground is not even. So at times it seems like you have a good view, and then even though it seems flat, you're actually moving just a little bit and you can't see very far, and then you can see again and very uneven.
Is it a clearly defined trail?
This is, yes,
Pathway?
it's a dirt path.
With
But it's probably about with brush on either side, and it's probably about as wide as like a 1-lane road as opposed to like a big thoroughfare. And every once in a while, you do see people coming either, if you're heading in one direction, you don't see people go over there. See people coming in the opposite direction. And yes, from Exerdale. Fairly rare, but you see a handful of groups and one carriage. And not carriage, wagon, like being pulled by a Heidal, which is basically
Heidal?
two-headed horse.
Two-headed horse?
I don't.
They're pretty common in these lands because the horses mutated.
Sure.
And so the first passerby come by and Lord Fernigus runs out. Excuse me, it's terrible weather. Excuse me. And he begins talking, low with them. Do any of you come over to join him?
I follow right behind him.
Do we see the state of these people? The condition?
They
The
are.
overall impression?
They're a hard-eyed lot, and they look like they might be either family or partners. There's a couple of like maybe a couple of half families kind of merged together, because there's 5 of them, 2 men, a woman, and 2 younger that are like 17, 18-year-old.
Any distinctive features?
They just look like rugged, hardened group.
So people traveling to another city for some reason, they're not necessarily refugees on the road or anything.
Yeah, they do not look like they're harried.
Well traveled.
They do look fairly well traveled, at least comfortably so.
Sure.
And their wagon is not laden with like their house furnishings. It's got boxes of like merchandise.
Sure. So it's only good somewhere.
Got it.
Exactly. And he says, "What news of Exerdale?" And they say, so the lead guy kind of steps forward, and he's got lean face with a goatee, and not really like a pointed fancy goatee, but like a bushy kind of with maybe half day's growth of hair. And he says, "We didn't come from Exerdale. We came up from just north of the Sulphur Gates. We were hoping to sell to the Infernos, but they were not feeling generous. So we are returning back to Crossroads to hopefully make the trek west." West.
So they're coming up from
The Sulphur Gates. Yes, correct.
They're going over towards Harrowed Lands.
Yeah, so they're heading back toward the Crossroads now. Is where you guys left. You haven't heard anything from Exerdale? No, is that news? I mean, we know what happened to Innorook, but nothing we've heard from Exerdale. I see. I have bad news. They haven't even heard anything from Exerdale. You may have been onto something.
Wouldn't be the first time.
I was also part of that conversation, just so we know. And even though they hadn't heard anything from Exerdale, they also said they hadn't come from Exerdale.
Well, maybe they went through it and they just didn't know it.
Very possible. But I'm letting you know that someone might have misinterpreted something.
Are you questioning Lord Fernigus?
Not questioning,
That's what I thought.
What?
just curious.
No, nothing's wrong. You're good.
From Lord Azorius.
Yes, Lord Fernigus.
Kenny begins up. It's one of those like. Yeah.
Basically.
I can't hear you. Of course, it's too loud. You, about an hour before dawn, you see the town. You come up to the town of Exerdale. It's there.
Oh, well, that's a bummer.
It is.
Well shut.
It doesn't have a town wall. It's just kind of the you. There's a couple buildings start popping up, and then pretty soon there's a group of them.
See, they just asked for
And
No defense
he
at all.
says, and Lord Fernigus says, I know the innkeeper here. It's called shit. Hold on.
Like,
The fellow's roof.
Cannon.
The fellow's roof. And I'm pretty sure we got some rooms ahead of time, so you won't have to spend your own gold. And he starts to lead you there. 3 days ago, around the time in Noctis when he was meeting with,
Thanks for it.
well, yeah, okay, yes,
Yeah.
that's true. 4 days ago, around the time you were meeting with you. Ah, yes, that's right. Enter it here. That's the river. You are approached by a magog. It sort of hops up to you, its forked tail, and it bows low and says, Felliel the Firebrand. Message for you from the prince.
Well, this should be exempting. What is it?
Hello. And as it breathes, it's like sulfuric mist breathing out of its maw. Do you no longer bow to your prince?
I was really hoping this was a message. I reluctantly go down.
I have a task for you. You are to travel northwest to the town of Crossroads in what the others call the Harrowed Lands. And you are to represent the Infernals. Find what happened to the town of Innorook. We believe a great power was used there, and it shall be mine. The creature's hand is not meant to make a fist, and you hear bones crack as it attempts to make one.
Jesus.
Do you understand your assignment?
I do. It shall be done, Prince.
And you will bring this spell back to me, and no other.
I do.
Thank you.
And the next day, you set forth. Reluctantly, the moment the gate closes behind you on your own town, you see several infernals move in to take over the abandoned seat, knowing that you're going to have a little bit of effort on your hands when you return. You enter the Fellow's Roost. It is near dawn, but not quite yet. Maybe 45 minutes off. That like slight lightning in the, that like, it's gonna be there soon, but it's not quite. No sun yet at all. And the first thing you notice is that this late at night is this is just after kind of the revelry has happened. And so people are either well into their cups and kind of passing out, or they've disappeared altogether. But the two most sober people in the room are also the two most interesting. There's a woman sitting at a seat. Can you explain what you look like?
Me?
And feel free to take a minute.
Yes, slow and descriptive as you like.
I appear to be, or she appears to be human in nature. Kind of sunken eyes a little, like tired eyes. A lot of not sure if it's paint or tattoos or some sort of markings under the eyes and like lips. And maybe on forehead too.
Keep going.
Yeah. And
Great.
super long hair, like kind of unruly, like partially dreaded, some braids, and there's like, I don't know, twigs and feathers or shit in it. Yeah. And kind of like longer nails, I guess, and like just kind of creepy, but like also wet, like creepy, but also gives off a kind of somewhat like softer in the eyes vibe, maybe. Like not so bad, but not to be trifled with, maybe. She's probably a bit tall and like thinner. Yeah, maybe like.
You smell like forest or soggy moss. She'll be like, that's gonna give off an aroma as soon as you hit the door.
Or patchouli.
I don't know. I think I would probably.
She doesn't smell it anymore.
Yeah, I'm nose blind now.
Are you going more boggy or more foresty?
Probably more foresty.
Okay.
Or wood.
Yeah, more like woodsy. Yeah.
Okay.
But not quite pine fresh.
Not quite pine fresh. A little
Right.
bit.
It's about 2 weeks after that.
Yeah.
Her companion looks like
I answer.
Just a handful.
That's it.
Remember
A
this
walking
little-
hamster.
Literally. Like at a glance, just a hamster.
What color?
Yeah, you like long hair, short hair hamster.
What color? Yeah.
Do you have like a little ponytail?
what do you keep in your cheeks?
What do you want?
That's for me and my pouches.
Do you have a little staff like doing the picture? Do you wear shoes?
I like that you wear like a Cubone hat or
Yeah.
like a bone on your face.
Really thought you got a hooded rope.
He might.
I actually did too.
We're like,
I do have a hooded rope.
listen, if we're in like a bar though, and he's trying to play just like my pet,
Just trying to play it cool.
yeah, if he's trying to blend in as this like literal hamster, he wouldn't be wearing.
It is
I'm
possible.
drinking out of my casual attire.
But I can and typically do walk on my two hind legs like a person.
Like,
And have a
cute.
little robe and have a little staff. Yeah, it's a little bone staff.
It's like red.
There's a hamster paw on the end of it, and then you can walk on 5 legs.
You get the highest of my comments.
Which is the lowest for the other races.
Yeah.
Okay, excellent.
How he gets us. That's a low five.
And as the 4 of us walk into the inn, you kind of, your eyes kind of rove over us, and can you explain what you look like to them? What do they see?
I look very much like my picture.
Hi.
Yeah, obviously, I'm a demon. Except he does have kind of almost like a thin kind of poncho thing to kind of cover his torso during travels. This is what he looked like if he didn't have it. But he does have two holsters on his belt on the side that has two revolver looking like guns that are a little bit altered and not quite revolvery, made of like a darker metal that has like lots of grease stains, and there's also kind of grease stains around on him. With just like in the picture, red hair, and just like light kind of like travel like pants and shoes made more for like moving and less for defense.
I want to see what you do.
Tall, first of all, tall and lanky. His face is
Like my hair.
yeah.
I wrote that down.
Like my
Lanky hair.
I did.
Like my syllables.
It's durable.
his face is like, it looks like the painted voodoo face, but that's just his natural skin tone. Okay. I was gonna go with the top hat, but I think I'm gonna change that up. So he kind of wears like a bandana kind of thing around, but it has right at the end, it's like tied off with like a little bone, right? He has a stick that he walks around with his staff that he has, right? But it's straight for the most part, and then comes out to a curve, and hanging from there are skulls and bones and whatnot, fun stuff. So it clanks around as he walks.
Like you have a focus or something.
Yeah, well, it's got its purposes of things I'm thinking of, but
Also, children.
he has this really battered, really ugly looking green suit that is his absolute favorite. He will never ever change to anything else because he loves that suit so much. And you can tell he loves it because it looks like it has been loved for way too long. Super long bony fingers too.
Nice.
Yeah.
Okay. Awesome. And what do they see when they look at you?
Death.
All right. Pale skin, long hair, white, similar to the picture, visually speaking. Clothes of a fine thread, good tailor, but functional, well-fitting, athletic, well-built, not stocky.
Nice. Okay. And of course, you know what Lord Fernigus looks like.
I didn't mention anything about my clothes.
No, please describe him in as many S's as you can.
Yes.
Okay.
You just don't wear
what kind of clothes? Yeah.
I'm just naked.
I didn't mention
I mean,
that because I'm not.
It's nothing important. It's just like I would imagine it would be like large, kind of patchwork.
Yeah, like you have like a dress once and every time it tears, you fix it.
Yeah, I fix it, and then I just have like a kind of. It's like you can't really tell where the dress and like the shawl and like all that shit. It's just kind of like a big. I just draped in fabric that's kind of like falling. Down.
That
Like
kind of like
pattern.
is stuck to your hair.
Yeah, like it's like moth eaten and there's holes in my patches and stuff. And I also was thinking that it would almost look like my hands were almost permanently like dirty. Like my fingers are like, can you not? My fingers are like as if I had been in dirt, but it's just like they're like the tips are black, but they're not. Like, if I wash my hands, it'd still be there.
Are you Sera?
Sorry, not an expert. Who's asking?
It is I, Lord Fellock. Fernigus.
Wait, do I know who that is?
Oh, sorry. I am the one from the coalition. Oh, just me. They said that you would be our guide to Innorook. Well, we are in Exerdale. Innorook is another
We're trying to see.
3 or 4, like 3 hours further.
Wait, so
We'll get there
do
midday the next day.
I actually know about this like mission thing? Like, have I been recruited for this? I thought I was just like figuring this shit out on my own.
Yes, you are. You are trying to figure it out, and And so, but the reason you're in Exerdale is because you're meeting them.
Okay, cool.
Hi, I'm Velizar. I'm her associate. Now,
Everybody should be like, what's up?
of course I'm.
What's in the name of the
Just
fruits are
so
you?
know, things have gotten a little more dicey lately.
I
We're
think we
gonna
have
have to double our fee for there. It's a little more dangerous than we had anticipated.
I see, I see. I'm not against counting, but I'll see what I can do.
So you agree to the terms before we set out?
What dangers lie?
Yes, please inform us. Forthwith.
Yeah, tell us what you know, my furry little friend.
Yes.
I've heard that there's been frenzy running around.
Interesting. Well, this changes a lot. Have you guys, did you know what happened to Lord Fellock?
No, who's Lord Fellock?
It doesn't matter.
Don't matter no more.
I see. Are you going with us?
I'll be taking you there as long as you give the appropriate fees.
I was told that this would be led by a human.
I'm happy to be a part of this as long as I'm able to accomplish my tasks.
Do we have to go with the hamster?
Yes, the rodent is my friend.
And you need my help with the frenzy.
I mean, we have a vampire. I keep ignored.
I think of the hamsters trying to convince you, you have to take the hamster along.
Interesting.
I mean, this is what the hamster does in a bar. Imagine what the hamster will do in anywhere else.
Roll around in a ball?
I think you underestimate hamsters.
Hmm.
I'm all for it.
If he don't go, he doesn't go, I don't go.
I see. Well, let me talk to some of my contacts in the city. I mean, this really small village.
How many people call your people?
Right?
So let me get this straight really quick before we call.
Yes,
You were just bringing us here to bring us there.
yes. I've never been beyond Exerdale
Otherwise.
because Innorook is really boring.
Well, not anymore.
It was. Yes.
Seems
Sorry.
pretty interesting to me.
I was
Kind of dead now.
probably too much.
It's underground, he wouldn't do that.
Wow.
Too soon.
Right, wait till the whole.
So, you'll set out in the morning and I'll procure your funds.
Sounds good.
This is where we part ways. I'm not going to Innorook. I don't know why you look at it. So I'm gonna just go to my room.
Yeah, goodbye.
Later.
I guess we're on our own for rooms here. Yeah, I speak a little bit of slur.
So now, are you like a normal hamster, or are you like a weird hamster, mutant hamster?
No, he's normal. A normal hamster's talk. Sorry, I shouldn't have- that's not how I speak.
I kind of like this dual personality.
There is a relevant
Is
sort of.
it the third person?
I have
What
like.
do you mean by weird? Oh, weird
Seems
things
the
we
hamster's
see.
talking.
Well, usually it's just a little hamster that then gets eaten by something else. I don't really see hamsters talking or making negotiations to upsell their wish
Their
counterpart.
services.
We can assume it's a mutant, right? If we, yeah.
I think you're talking about it.
I'm just clarifying based on the lore question I asked earlier.
Yep.
Yeah,
We can,
Assume.
races are inherently obvious, so if. a hamster
if I'm
says they saw
standing
a
up
bar,
in a row,
Yeah.
holding a bone staff. and
clearly
talking.
mute. Yeah, okay.
Well, I don't know, maybe you were just cursed.
Could have been.
We could make an assumption. You want to
I'm sorry, but I'm going
That was a good burn. I can say I've never heard of any kind of person in New Haven amongst us that have ever turned anyone into a hamster.
honestly never have I.
It's an interesting one. So this path we gotta go on. You know the way, yeah?
You do.
I do.
So probably best to start in the evening after a full day's rest.
Yeah, I mean, you can't leave unless it's dark out. Right? Can he like be like covered in like a something?
Why don't you ask him?
Can you be covered in like something? No,
Why?
I mean like,
Oh, it's travel.
yeah, like can we only travel at night or can we travel?
What was this? The whole thing is optional.
Oh, right.
For the most part.
You're a night person.
But if something wakes us up and attacks us in the middle of the day, do we have to leave you? What can we do with you? How can we help?
I'm assuming.
We'll just
some
throw
kind
him in
of-
the sack like and put him over the shoulder and around.
That'll be the hamster's job.
Make sure it's light tight.
Right?
Don't worry, I'll lock you up in the corners. I got
Yeah, if there's a lore-based
The
thing that
safest place is
protects me during the day if I'm not in shelter, is that something I
Like, and you just walk around in an
Wait, I was
umbrella
gonna
like
roleplay.
Dracula.
You know what I mean?
I had
A blackout parasol.
Yeah.
Typically, a vampire has like a coffin they retreat to and sleep to. If I'm traveling on the road,
You hang upside down like a bat.
do I have something that I need to figure out for shelter, or am I expected to travel and discover shelter along the way every single time? Which is fine because Tenebris is relatively small, so I'm probably not traveling without some sort of structural shelter for days at a time, right?
Yeah, I would
Yeah,
say,
ask it.
I would say that at this point in time, it's the second, and I think that it might be if your character decides, oh, I'm going to be a lot more worldly than I was expecting, maybe he begins to think about a way to some sort of mobile carriage coffin type
Okay.
thing. But I think at the moment you're more expected to find a shelter in time because there's always a place within a day's travel. I believe.
Maybe if you get that state of power, you just travel with a little cohort.
Yep, you're
The rest
thralls.
of the chariot carriage.
You know,
I'm gonna go retreat to my house.
speaking of all this daytime stuff, things like that, I remember hearing about something a long time ago that my grandpappy told me about this voodoo we had to learn in our family that got lost from generations about being able to make something that can just make an instant shelter. Something to think about.
That would be, yeah. Let us know.
Call it a tent.
No, it's not.
Our native friends call it a tent.
It's like a tent, but it's more like when they go like in Harry Potter when you go in the tent. It's like
Yeah.
Oh, it's more than you
It's
know.
bigger on the inside. All right, so you guys sleep for the day. If is there anything you want to do before you fall asleep?
Mhm.
Okay, done. Sleep. Sleep.
Spit on my wheel.
Is that how you get your drink?
Dude, if
I
you don't
just like
have,
sprinkle some pellets.
you don't have a whole handheld thing that you go like every time.
4.5 days ago, about the same time that he was meeting with doctors, you were meeting with the prince, you were meeting with the spirit.
Meeting day.
You were being escorted to a camp of mutants.
Sounds about right.
And a human height mutant approaches, and he has kind of strange thing is he has like one tentacle for an arm, and the other arm's like just this massive bicep, huge arm. And he's got this kind of misshapen head. Looks almost like a burn victim kind of thing, but with only with his like one eye higher, kind of like Snoke. You know? And so he has a couple people like around him, and you recognize him as the outcast king. And he says, with his voice like, Velizar the Renovator.
At your service.
It has been some time since our paths last crossed.
It has.
I want to extend the offer that you once rejected. But if you reject it again, I would also like to retain your services nonetheless. So, would you once again consider being my lieutenant? I have grown quite a bit since last the offer was extended.
You have.
This never seems to stop moving.
I know, it's like that you're just.
Unfortunately, per our last discussion, I still have business that needs to finish before I can accept that offer. However,
Yes.
my services are always
I
for
see,
hire.
I see. Well, I do have need of your talents.
You're like a little nibbler. You can feel the gold.
Do you know of the Hellspring?
I do.
I need you to investigate the ruin, well, the disappearance of Innorook. I think it may have some clues that lead me closer to that.
Interesting.
I will send word after your visit, and I want a full report for the usual fee, of course.
Information for the fee.
Mhm.
Sounds fair.
I have a bit of a gift for you then. There is a forest witch traveling less than a day south of here. You are to meet up with her and work with her, though she knows not that she has been moved by the auspices of my people.
Interesting. Should I tell her or keep that to myself?
Let's use our discretion, shall we?
Fair enough.
Always a pleasure, Velizar. The night dusks.
Yep.
And you set foot on the path. So, my question, do you want to do a probably 45-minute story battle to see your characters in battle, or do you want to save that for the start of next session?
How about we start that at the next session?
Okay,
I
great.
think that's a good idea.
Headway, we
Yeah,
did a lot of games,
absolutely.
we learned a lot of things.
In that case, let's-
Now let it marinate for a sec.
Yep.
In that
Yeah.
case, let me do the last role play with her.
Okay.
In front of you guys.
Okay.
So around, so 5 days ago, the same time when Azorius was meeting with.
I would say also too, this, if and or when Kaya jumps in, you can just catch her up there.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah. You have a visitor. It's very strange to get a visitor to your hut, but it doesn't surprise you that the person identifies themselves, despite their very young boy look, as Cordina Lutessa, the Skybreaker. I've been looking for you, Gladekeeper. You recognize, of course, this is one of the 101. I trust we have found you in good fortunes. The boy probably looks no more than 9 and speaks in kind of a piping voice. Did you feel the presence when the town went missing? I did too. I think it felt like him. What are you planning on doing about it?
Time to set off on foot. See what I can find.
Are you going to do so in this form?
Yes. Yes. Yes.
I see. Well, I've been in contact with one of the others, and I think that there's been a lot of movement, especially among those who are still incorporeal. We'll all be doing our best to watch over you. and they kind of spin about and leave the place.
Oh, that's nice.
As you're getting all your stuff ready, your hut is pretty basic, but it has some special things. There's a couple of books, which are pretty rare, and a chest of probably identical rotting clothes, and and a little garden of herbs and flowers, and you kind of, very carefully tend to each as you kind of do your morning thing, and then you pack up the last couple items into your bag, and the very last thing, your hand sort of trembles a little as you reach for, and you pull from underneath like you open up a drawer and pull from within the drawer a small handheld, like very small, like almost compact mirror. And as you go to move it into your bag almost quickly, you catch sight of your reflection and it scowls at you. It says, "You're a coward. You'll need to make a choice soon. And you're not prepared." And you shove it into the bag. And a troubled look kind of crosses your face before you dismiss it. And you close the flap on your bag and you set out, not knowing that you're about to meet the most deep-voiced hamster you ever have. And thus ends session 1.
Are books rare and uncommon throughout all of Tenebris?
No, that they're but in Harrowed Lands.
Okay,
Yeah, sure. Let us, before we go, schedule next session.
yes.
It's always easier when we do it.